Good morning, Greg.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are live.
That's
That's what pages up here. Welcome to the January 16th meeting, Raleigh County Commissioners. Please stand and join in the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, let's see. Last couple of days for the cold hits us.
It's gonna be serious cold.
like how cold.
Like 3 below at night.
Wind chill -10, -20, I heard.
Yeah.
I don't know what my dog's been doing.
Is there any public comment? We'll go to commission comments. John?
Okay, well, we'll start off on Monday afternoon, post-meeting. Listened in on a National Association of Counties webinar entitled Artificial Intelligence, the Past, the Present, and the Future. It was both an informative and educational webinar, but also frightening and scary at the same time. This webinar will coincide with the symposium that will take place during the legislative conference at the end of February in Washington, D.C. May try to attend that to follow up on some questions while I'm there, so we'll see how that works out. Also on Monday, I did have some blood work and lab work done to coincide with my yearly physical that I had in October. Doctors said to wait until after the holidays to do that. Kind of wish maybe I hadn't. My cholesterol kind of, maybe it's from all the eggs I eat. I'm gonna blame it on eggs.
Don't blame it on eggs.
Well, I gotta blame it on something. It didn't just happen.
Christmas cookies.
Christmas cookies. We'll go Christmas cookies.
Did you eat any of these pretzels over here? The chocolate covered ones? Yeah, okay.
Pretzels and cookies. Okay, problem solved. I like that. So yeah, like I said, everything else turned out great. Blood pressure's good. Yeah, that was the only exception. And she wasn't like off the charts. It just kind of went from here to like to there. So yeah, cookies and pretzels. I like that. Okay.
They were good though. Those pretzels were really
Cookies were
good.
too, for the record. Tuesday night, attended the K-State Texas Tech basketball game at Bramlage. They scraped and squalled, but ultimately lost 61-57. I think that's 2 hours of my life I'm not going to get back, but that's okay. Record 7-9, 1-4 in Big 12 play. I think we're the only team with a losing record in the Big 12. But kind of liking it. I was telling Brian this, but kind of like that V8 sports car when you get it. You know, it's nice and new and shiny and whistles and bells and everything, but it only runs on 5 cylinders.
Yeah. That's what.
Breaks down when
Yeah.
the tire.
We wish
falls
we had
out.
5 cylinders clicking.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
there's at times where it does, and then immediately they lose the other 3. So I don't know. I keep thinking I'm a bad luck charm, but I don't think it's me. So I'll just leave it at that. I just lost my notes again here. Wednesday afternoon, I attended the January Policy Board meeting in the Metropolitan Planning Organization at Manhattan Public Library. Some of the items of discussion was a fiscal update from the organization, staff updates that included the TDM Connect 2050 progress. As you're aware, there's going to be several regional meetings here towards the end of January and February to discuss the progress on that. And they also discussed the EVRP progress. KDOT also provided their usual update. Not a lot of report from them at this particular point in time, but it is early in the year. Had several action items to discuss and approve, including the minutes from last month's meeting, the safety performance measures and targets, preservation performance measures and targets, which dealt with a lot of bridges. Be glad to know we're doing pretty good in Riley County. Thank you, John, for that. And mobility performance measures as well. And we approved the 2024 audit engagement letter. There was discussion on the traffic demand modal, and then we adjourned. Lastly, on Wednesday, I met with the team at Stormont Vale to discuss direction of 2025 and how we need to approach it. I have a new doctor that joined the team. I met with her via video yesterday. She's moved here from Topeka, and that actually was supposed to be in person tomorrow, but I'm going to be in Topeka, so we moved it to video instead and worked out pretty well. Lastly, I attended the policy breakfast, formerly known as Good Morning Manhattan, hosted by the Manhattan Area Chamber of Commerce at the DoubleTree by Hilton, formerly known as the Four Points Sheraton. Lots of changes there. And a guest speaker was Alfonso Clavio, the director at MBAF, and a big shout out to all the local businesses for being the sponsor this month. No bacon, ham, but
You jinxed it.
I did. But nonetheless, it was good nonetheless. So, and here we are this morning. So that's all I got.
Okay. All right, let's see. Well, Monday and Tuesday, most of my time was spent, I had 3 doctor appointments and 2 committee meetings at my church. One was quite lengthy, and we just hired a new choir director, so that was really, really good to have her there. Anyway, Tuesday evening, I watched portions of the city commission meeting on TV. They talked over the RHID again a little bit, but then they went into executive session and I turned it off. But Carol McCullough was elected and Susan Adamczyk went to pro tem.
Oh, okay. I was kind of wondering how that was going. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of, Monday, I spent most of the day working on monthly finances and started work on my 2024 tax information. I did review the agenda and documents for today's meeting, had a follow-up call on the Keats project with Bryant Parker. And later on, I talked to Bryant about various items on the agenda. This morning, I too attended the Good Morning Manhattan meeting at DoubleTree by Hilton. I was surprised when I drove in the parking lot. Oh,
Well, that was actually changed last month too, but I don't think anybody recognized it. So
they have new carpet and bathrooms.
Yeah.
Look good. I mean, it was really, they really fixed it up.
I should have walked up front to see if they were offering cookies.
Yeah, I didn't.
That's
get a
the big
chance
key
to do
there.
that.
Now, yeah.
You get cookies. at the
Yeah,
front desk.
yeah. Usually when you come up there, they offer you a cookie. That's Hilton's deal.
So
They don't have to be good cookies. It's just a cookie.
A cookie.
Go through the front desk. Anytime we have to come to a
Right.
meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to avoid the front.
Don't let them use that excuse. They're still in the oven type of stuff either. Make them give you a cookie.
Okay, and this, the speaker, included Alfonso Clavio. Is that how you pronounce it? Clavio. And did quite a presentation on how they're operating with their employees and with the super infections that can happen. So anyway, that was good. I met a new person who's a practitioner here that does a whole body health. It was really interesting to talk to her. Anyway, that's all I have.
Tuesday was the contractor update meeting at the EMS station. Everything's still on schedule. They're gonna start painting in the admin area this week. It's moving right along. They're installing the garage doors this week. The back ones are the overhead doors. The front are the accordion, or they're quite a door. It's taken quite a bit to get them installed too. It took a whole crew of people. And then we finalized the signing details to go to the city to get that approved. And then there was one, DHS didn't like the finish on the concrete in 2 small corridors, so they're going to pay to have the floors epoxied to match. Because they said that wasn't what they wanted, so they're going to epoxy flooring in those areas. After the EMS meeting, I went to the museum to see how they're doing on their remodel. And the painter was working, they moved stuff out of the exhibit room and painters were painting on the walls. It already looks a lot different. I talked to her about the lighting, how they're still working. The electrician had already been there to work on lighting. They're going to be able to keep the tracks and put new light fixtures in them.
Oh, good. That'll save more.
Saves quite a bit of money. And then adding some lights back in that storeroom that's a dark.
So you don't have to pull
Yeah, and put a
chain.
switch in on it instead of having to walk around and pull the chain and all the lights. Then Tuesday evening was a fire board advisory meeting. They gave an update on all the new trucks gotten in. And there's new fire reporting software that they're working on getting set up. It'll probably be March for it's on live. And then it talked about honoring some longtime volunteers with plaques in each station, because there's some people that have really put a lot of time in those places. That and some families, like say, in one third generation, and at least two families.
Well,
Yeah. Russell, Russell's he's third, that Doug Russell's third generation.
is-
Yeah.
I
And then
know
the
his
other one-
grandmother.
At Larson. It's Larson. So, yeah. Then Wednesday was a juvenile detention center meeting. Everything's going well at that facility. They discussed some changes that DCF is proposing to the legislator that'll make it even more difficult to take care of juveniles, which seems to be what DCF does. And then I mentioned the pharmaceutical changes that Mark French had talked to us about, saying, told them that they're small enough, it might not help them, but they're going to check into that and see if that'd be a benefit to them too. And that's all I've got. It started with business.
Sounds good. First item I have, Commissioner, need a motion to approve staff recommendation for bid submitted by Rush Truck Center of Topeka, Kansas, by tandem axle truck chassis for $138,980.
That was quick.
Yeah.
Get turned around.
He didn't think there was any benefit by being a quicker delivery on some of them.
What was the delivery date on that one? I don't remember that one.
It's on this page, because that one was July, the next
Yeah.
one above them, one
It's like a year.
was July of 25, this one was 1 year delivery.
I think familiarity is the lowest price.
Okay.
Yeah. This is
So-
the chassis only. We have the box. And other equipment to go with it. We just
I would just take the stuff of the old truck and
put
put it on
it put together in chassis.
So you have a workable vehicle that you can use for another year.
Yes.
Okay. It seems like a long time.
But not
for a
two,
chassis.
apparently.
Well, no, it'll be back running hopefully within a month. We can get it running again.
Okay.
Well, yeah, there's not a lot of difference in price, like, well, $10,000, but to get it quicker. Well, actually, the June one was. That was so. Anyway. Okay, well, if you don't have a problem with it, I'd make a motion to approve the staff recommendation for the bid submitted by Rush Truck Center of Topeka, Kansas, to supply the tandem axle truck chassis for $138,980.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the recommendations for the bid by Rush Truck Center. Amount of $138,980. All in favor?
Aye.
Next, Commissioner, need a motion to approve extension of contract for Riley County Grounds Maintenance with Rothwell Landscape.
Okay, I don't have.
Yeah. Okay,
I'll go ahead and make a motion then to approve the contract for Riley County Grounds Maintenance extension with Rothwell Landscape.
I would second that.
Been moved and seconded to approve the extension of the contract with Rothwell Landscaping. All in favor?
Aye.
Chair, please sign.
You didn't need a signature on that first one.
No, ma'am. Next, commission need a motion to approve proposal for engineering design services for University Park utility extension with Schwab.
Because I passed that one, I guess, already.
I think,
I'm on the,
John, that seemed a lot of money to extend 300 feet of sewer and water. You
That's
know,
just design, I think, right?
I know, just the design, yeah, like I'm saying, that's the cost of extending the sewer, not just the design, it seems.
I mean. I don't know what to say to that. I mean. I don't. I don't set their rates.
Yeah,
This is just water, right?
Water and.
and water and sewer for the new fire station.
Oh.
well, did we get bids on this? Was this the lowest bid or what? I don't see any
You
bids.
approved that
We,
a couple weeks ago.
Did we?
yeah, just, well, we approved them to be our on-call in effect with their rates. And so it'll be the same way, it'll be billed on their hourly rates.
Okay, so this is a proposed cost.
And that's not a exceed.
Not to exceed.
Exceed. Right? So it could be a little less, shouldn't be too much there, but it's time.
So it's about to exceed that. Okay, that'll be the motion, yeah. I would make a motion to approve the proposal with Schwab Eaton for the University Park engineering design for water and sewer, not to exceed $16,300.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the proposal for engineering services with Schwab and Eaton in University Park for not to exceed 16,300. All in favor?
Chair, please sign. Thank you. Commissioners need a motion to approve the appointments and resolution.
Okay. I make a motion to approve the following appointments and resolution number 011625. The resolution appointing Riley County representatives to council and advisory boards.
I would second that.
Been moved and seconded to approve the appointments, resolution 011625, appointing representatives to council and advisory boards as listed. All in favor?
Aye.
All three, please sign.
Signing this file.
Yeah.
I got one letter on one of those.
You want to go ahead and take Amy and then catch up later? Her time is at 9:15.
Yeah, I was getting sort of this,
You can catch up later.
yeah, that's fine. You want to go ahead and start, Amy?
I'll be quick.
Thank you.
Amy Mangus, registered.
I'll just stop in the other day.
You're only about halfway there.
Page 80, if you can jump ahead somehow. I don't know if you can. This coincides with that.
Well, that's my audit.
Maybe it doesn't. Uh-oh. Well, I was wrong, sorry. That's what it is, yeah, 12A, I guess it's the one on the top is what you have to take, yeah. The packet page.
Yeah.
This is going by. Wait,
Yeah.
now we can top it, 12A.
You just thought you were gonna be quick.
Why would it coincide with our packet numbers? Well, I'm wondering.
All right, today I have a brief summary of our 2024 revenue with comparable information for 2023. Last year started a little slow, but we ended with almost 35 million more in indebtedness than compared to 23, which in turn up the fees that we collected in our Heritage Trust and the various tech funds. We did not reach 30,000 on Heritage Trust Fund this year, so we did not have any extra that went to the general fund. We filed 24 plats compared to 30 and 23. 7 of them were multiple lots or subdivisions versus 3 plats and just 1 plat or 1 lot plats. So not a whole lot of new subdivisions last year. We recorded 6,101 documents compared to, I think last year was 5,900. So a slight increase there, containing 28,406 pages, which is a little over 2,200 increase from the year before. We averaged 71 subscriptions on our monthly IDOC market, a total of 11,602 pages printed. Here. and 6,498 views. I was actually really excited about the 71 subscriptions because the year before was 49. So that means that people are helping themselves more, which eliminates staff having to do it. And we did email out about 800 pages less than the year before. So hopefully we'll continue to grow our subscriptions and free up staff time for other things. I completed the necessary hours of coursework to remain a certified Kansas registered deeds last year. I grew our property fraud alert subscribers by 212. I gave a few presentations, which isn't my favorite thing to do, but it definitely helped. I'm sending 3 employees to the registered deeds school in Salina on February 18th for the week. So it'll just be another staff member that week. And we're continuing our scanning project of our books 239 through 332. And tracking our revenue loss for the year. This year, I specified a minimum of 606,708 lost. Because we had multiple mortgages that I excluded that were of larger amounts. We had the possibility of almost another 7 million. It's actually 6,733,000. But there was things like Peerless Tire and Red Dot that were large mortgages, and when I called and asked about them, although they did not include other locations, they were from multiple locations, so I did take those out. Just because I don't want to inflate those numbers at all. So. That's all I have.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank
Thank you.
Commissioners, can I get a motion on tax roll corrections?
I move to sign tax roll corrections as written.
I would second that.
Moved and seconded that the tax roll corrections are presented. All in favor?
Chair, please sign. Is it okay if I keep going, Greg?
Yeah.
Commissioners have Raleigh County Personnel Action Forms, Annalise Trout, account clerk, license elections and elections department, separation of service, Tessa Priggy, on-call juvenile intake, community corrections, separation of service, Jason Anderson, traffic control supervisor, public works, separation of service, all 3, please sign. Any changes on the minutes, commissioners?
Everything.
Get motion?
I make a motion to approve the minutes from the January 13th meeting of the Raleigh County Commission as written.
I would second that.
Moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the January 13th meeting as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Tentative agendas look okay, commissioners? Any items for next week's press conference?
We won't be here on Monday for it.
True, next week's.
We have a lot of days off. These
No one
days.
probably wants to get out next Monday, but the temperature's coming.
Yeah.
And
That's true. That will be good.
commissioners will receive an email from Kayla Wood
Oh,
regarding the presentation on safe shelter. Was there anyone that wanted to contact them and be in
I was
communication
gonna-
on that?
I
I'm gonna
did.
bring that up at the end of the meeting.
Okay,
today,
sounds good.
Because ask Russell to come in.
Sounds
to
good.
Go over some stuff. with
Yep,
that.
I just want to be sure we
At
touch
the end
base
of the
on
meeting,
it.
Yeah.
We can talk about it then
That's good.
when Greg wants to.
I
Yep.
guess you reached out to him. I've
called
already
her.
talked to her as well. I
Yeah,
have to.
Mhm.
yeah, I did.
I just wanted to be sure someone circled back and we can talk later.
Okay.
Like Greg wanted to. It'd be great.
Yeah, because I didn't know if it would be Russell or Lori that would work
Well,
on
that's
it.
right.
Yeah.
Russell and everything. With his. It's 9:30.
It is. Tried to get us back on.
Okay, what page are we on?
It's
The
Brian. All right.
Did you have anything before?
No, Commissioner.
Okay. I'll go ahead and move that the county commission, including Chairman McKinley, Vice Chairman Foki, and Commissioner Ford, recess into executive session of potential litigation for the purpose of consultation with Bryant Parker, County Counselor, and Jacob Hansen, Deputy County Counselor, attorneys for the commission, which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship. An exception to the Kansas Open Meetings Act, the open meeting to resume in the commission chamber at 9:50 a.m. John Ellerman, Director of Public Works, Amanda Webb, Director of Planning and Development, Rich Vargo, County Clerk, Ricky Phillips, Budget and Planning Officer, and Brian Foster, BG Consultants will be present during a portion of the executive session to provide factual information.
Second that.
Second,
Been moved and seconded. The county commission recess and executive session for the reason previously stated in the attorney-client relationship exception to the Kansas Open Meeting Act. All in favor?
aye.
Thanks, guys. Good, okay.
Thanks.
I'll go ahead and move that the Board of County Commissioners come out of executive session.
I would second that.
And moved and seconded to come out of executive session, all in favor?
Aye.
I'll also move that the record reflect action shall be taken consistent with the consensus reached in executive session.
I would second that.
Moved and seconded, the record reflect action shall be taken consistent with the consensus reached in executive session, all in favor?
Aye.
Ready, yes.
Fire away.
Okay, good morning, Commissioners. Brittany Phillips, Budget and Finance Officer. Here with Jacob from James Gordon and Associates to present a brief overview of the 2023 audit. So he has a management letter and copies for you, all of you as well.
Thanks, sir. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jacob Cleoff with James Gordon and Associates. And today we're going to go over the December 31st, 2023 audit, as well as our required communication letter. The first thing we're going to go over is that required communication letter, so that's outside the bound copy. What I want to point out within this letter is that there was no new accounting standards adopted under the KMA for 2023. In addition, we don't anticipate any significant changes to the KMA for 2024. Overall, for the audit, we didn't have any significant difficulties with the staff within Riley County. Brittany, Rich, the treasurer's office, everyone provided the information as fast as they could in a timely manner. On the back of the audit, or on the back of this letter, is what we call our adjusting journal entries for the audit. Most of these entries involve us recording the agency funds. So those are the funds that are held by the county for outside agencies. So like the FSA accounts, the law library, those type of accounts. So you guys don't track the activity. When we come in and do the audit, we have to record them on the financial statement. The other entries kind of just revolve around inputting the accounts payable into our system so that we can put it on the audit. Most of these entries are provided by the county staff, so we don't consider them audit adjustments in the sense that you guys weren't recording something that you should have been. Does anyone have any questions on the letter? I'm going to briefly go over the actual audit report. So if you open the bound copy and if you go to maybe the first page, this is our actual audit opinion. As in past years, we have an adverse opinion under GAAP and an unmodified opinion under the regulatory basis. So the unmodified opinion on the regulatory basis is the highest level of assurance that we can provide on an audit report. Kind of in simple terms, it was a pretty clean audit, so we have nothing to report in the actual audit report. The next couple of pages kind of go over your responsibilities for the financial statements management as well as ours. If you go to page 4, this is your actual financial statement. So this is your summary of statements of receipts, expenditures, and unencumbered cash. Overall, your cash went up about $6 million compared to the prior year. $4 million within the capital improvement fund, and about $2 million in that road and bridge tax fund. So that was that new fund that was created in 2023. Receipts were up $4 million in the current year, and expenses were up 10. The majority of those receipts and expense increases were all within the general fund. Then there was a $2 million increase in that road and bridge. Those are the taxes that you collected this year. On page 6, you'll see this is the bottom, so this kind of tells you the cash that you're holding. You have your checking accounts, your savings accounts, certificates of deposits, petty cash. And then at the bottom, you'll see that less agency funds. So that's all the funds that are held by the county for outside entities or funds that are to be dispersed, like your ad valorem taxes for the cities and townships. The next 13 to 20 pages are going to come with the footnotes. We generally don't go over those in detail. I like to identify on page 10. So you guys did have a budget violation in 2023. It was a small violation, but still something that we want to identify. That was within the Hunters Island Water District. And in addition, there was a cash violation in the return check fund of $261. With both violations, they're both minimal, and the return check one is kind of a recurring because that's just when checks, people write checks so they bounce. The other footnote that we like to identify is going to be on page 13. And that is your schedule of debt. So this is where you'll see the beginning year balance for all your general obligation bonds, the temp notes, as well as any of your finance leases. So your beginning balance of about 9.6 million in 2023, and then you ended the year at 8.9. So your debt went down. That's always good news.
Yeah.
On the next page is going to be your future maturity schedule. So you'll be able to see over the next 5 years individually, and then we combine it for every 5 years after. And it'll show you your principal and interest for each of those years.
Assumed that Dad got on the radio this morning coming in and
I
said.
heard that as well.
Our income has gone up, but so has our debt gone up. And I think, how did that happen?
I think they were reading that off the Register of Deeds report.
I was wondering when she was giving her report.
I heard the
wondered-
same thing. I was like, what new debt did we have?
Yeah, we didn't have any new debt. We paid
Yeah, that's
down.
not news to you. We're in deep trouble.
Yeah,
It didn't make, but I wondered when she gave her report, it said
Mhm.
it totaled.
That's where they
I
got
wondered
it off
if that's where
of.
They got
where they
it.
got it from.
They were mixing two different agenda items.
I thought, that doesn't sound right. I'm gonna listen because that didn't sound right.
Yep,
Well,
I caught that as well.
we need to have them correct that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really do need to
They
have them
really
correct
do.
that.
Just gotta do that. Where's Ruby?
Brittany will reach out to him.
Okay,
Brittany, give me an
Back the way.
she is. She okay?
Cold flu. Yeah,
What's going on?
it is.
The next thing I want to go over is just going to be your summary of expenditures, actual and budget. So that's going to be on page 17. And what this shows, it shows your certified budget after any amendments. And then the total expenditures are actually charged to the year, and then how much you were either over or under. And that's why we identified earlier, you only had one fund that was over budget for the year, but that kind of shows you the summary of it. So the next 40 pages are going to be the actual detail of your receipts and expenditures for every fund, budgeted and then the non-budgeted funds. The final item I want to go over is going to be your actual schedule of expenditures of federal awards. That's going to be on page 78. And what we report here is going to be the federal expenditures that you guys incurred and spent in 2023. So it's irregardless of the actual grant you got, how much money you got, it all revolves around how much you spent of federal funds. So for 2023, you guys spent 3.5 million, and then it's broken out by which grant that is applicable to.
Where are we getting COPE funding from?
Mostly WIC.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Because we've got a department, okay, thanks.
Actually, honestly, most of your grants flow through the health department. If you look at that schedule, the first one's gonna go through the health department, and then on the Department of Health and Human Services, almost all those also flow through the health department as well.
And I'll just, side note on a future agenda item topic, that's key to remember on the amount of grants that go through the health department.
Yeah.
Some information will be presented to the board in the near future.
On page 80, this is our schedule of findings and question costs. What we want to identify here is it's kind of the same thing as earlier. You know, we issued an unmodified report on the regulatory basis, adverse for GAAP. We had no material weaknesses identified, which is always good. We did have one significant deficiency identified, which I'm going to go over here in a minute. The good news overall is that for the federal award, we did not identify any material weakness or significant deficiency, and were able to issue unmodified reports on compliance for the major programs. That's something that you always want to strive to do, because when you apply for a grant, you have an adverse opinion, it could obviously adversely affect you. The two major programs that we selected this year was the WIC and then the ARPA funds. The WIC program is generally selected because of how much money flows through it. ARPA will probably obviously fall off in the next year or two. We did identify one financial statement finding for 2023. And what that revolves around was the bonuses that were paid to employees within the health department by the health department. The good news with that, and the reason it's not what we would call a single audit finding, is after a lot of back and forth, KDHE said that those costs were approved, that they were within the scope of the grant. So what that allowed us to do is to report it as a significant deficiency, because it was not through the proper channels. It was one of those expenses weren't approved by the commission. If it would have been the other way around, we would have had question costs, probably material. I mean, it would, probably material weakness in addition. So after talking through KDHE, they said that that's within the scope of that grant. So we were able to just kind of write it up as significant deficiency, more of a violation of internal controls of the county, because you did have internal control document on that process. They were circumvented in that approval process for those transactions.
You don't have to show a dollar amount on that
No,
because it was a grant. Okay.
if it would have been, if KDHA would have said no, then yes, because we would have had it on the,
But you have that.
I don't know if on page 81, you'll see, we have the COGS, the health department did not follow the proper payroll process. The question costs, since it was approved, they're not questioned in that sense. They were allowable under the grant. So they were technically allowable, but they weren't allowable as far as the processes of the approval process within the county.
What about the withholding amounts?
That's not a question cost, that is more of a significant deficiency, and I was gonna point that
Oh,
out.
okay, I'm sorry.
The issue with, and we ran into it at a couple of other counties as well, anytime you give a bonus outside of the payroll, it makes it so the county is technically, the county did not withhold the correct amount. Because you're gonna have the employer side, and technically as well as the employee side of some of those expenses generally should be withheld. So now you have to go back and either the employee's gonna have to match their portion, but the county's still gonna have to match what they should have paid into the employer portion.
And we are working on reissuing those W-2s for those years and then making those payments. So their capers has already been taken care of, but federal tax withholding state, we are currently working with James Gordon and Associates to process that and get that paid as well. So
The next pages kind of go over, so these are each our audit reports on the internal control over financial reporting under government auditing standards. You'll see within here, we have identified that same significant deficiency for that. And then we also have one of the major programs, which that's where we will not have anything in there revolving around that. So like I said, luckily KDHE said it was valid expense. So in that regard, for your guys' purposes, there's no need to pay that back. Does anyone have any questions on the audit?
I got a question. I mean, this is 23, it's a year ago. It doesn't, I thought usually we got them like,
You know, the amount of hours this one issue took us, and it's all because of that.
oh, okay.
We were probably.
An additional cost. We had it done, but I cannot tell you the amount of hours Jacob, Brittany, myself took in clarifying
So it's
this.
a question, those questions at
It's
the end,
all-
what delayed it, okay.
I think
I wasn't, I just wondered if,
we were done in, I think, July. I think I came down here to go over with Rich.
Yeah.
and
Then we
Brittany,
said,
and then-
let's talk about this.
and that's about the time we found the problems, oh, okay.
And
All right,
it just took us a long time.
So understand your concern, but I think you understand why.
Yeah, now, yeah, makes sense.
And thanks for all your work on it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And Brittany.
But 24 will be a lot faster.
Yeah, we should
Get that in.
I mean, like I said, we were done. I think in July is when I came down to kind of go over with Rich, the draft. And that's when it popped up. So I was like, well, we better, and then it took us 3 months probably to hear from KDHE.
Sure,
maybe
tracking
longer.
down people and getting straight answers. Yeah.
Because when something like that happens, there's only so, we can't make that determination. And we can read the grant agreements and say, okay, I mean, yeah, so that's where, I mean, they have included it in their grant reimbursement request. But we wanted to get clarification, do you guys know what happened? And they said, okay, well, it's approved.
They were aware of aspects and no one really wanted to give us an answer for a
Yeah.
long time.
Okay. All right. Do we have to make a motion on this?
No,
You know,
All right. Goodness sakes, that's a lot of work.
oh, that does not even
didn't even touch it.
show the amount of work it was this year. Commissioners, have any other questions for
No.
Jacob Bullis here?
Thank you.
Thanks, Jacob. Appreciate your work. Thank you. Commissioners, it is time
We got
for,
a new guy.
it is a new guy, and I'm not even gonna attempt your last name, Daniel.
Fair enough. I'll pass that along. Well, thank you all for your time. My name is Daniel Skuchis. Skuchis, yep. I was speaking with a gentleman, it's actually Czech, so I'm gonna say it's fitting for Manhattan there in the partnership. I was actually supposed to be joined by John Joe this morning, but unfortunately he had a sick child at home, so he was unable to make it
Seems to
there.
be a thing.
Everyone's sick.
So I just started last week as director for K-State Extension Riley County, so I just wanted to take the opportunity to come over and say hello, introduce myself. Although last week's my first week, I can be honest, this week feels like my first real week with the snow days and all of that. But I'm excited to be here. Before this role as a watershed specialist for K-State Extension and 4-H agent, and also served at Rock Springs 4-H Center as an administrator out there. So I was kind of telling folks I've always had a soft spot for Riley County from my time at camp to 4-H agent in the area. So I'm excited to be here and be part of the county here. I'm just getting started in things, so I'm still learning about our programs, but I know one thing we're excited for is coming up is our VITA program. I just had the opportunity to meet with our volunteer coordinator, Sue, that's working on this. And if I understood correctly, last year we hit 1,000 participants for the first time of people served. And so hopefully we can keep those numbers going up and get going. Should be taking people getting into it here soon and getting started come February. So yeah, I don't have a whole lot to start. I'm still meeting folks getting started, but I mostly want to let you guys know who I am and I'm excited to be here and get going with you all. So
Daniel, being Czechoslovakian, where are you from?
I'm from Sterling,
Sterling.
Kansas.
Oh, okay.
So, regularly I'll expect poppy seed kolaches, one of my favorite, because I
Yeah.
live close to Wilson, a Czech community.
Well, I know that the Czech egg out there, and my dad's side of the family's up from Cuba, another little Czech community. So
It is.
yeah, if you know kolaches, we're gonna get along just.
Oh,
fine.
man. Yeah, the
I
annual
like the fruit.
Czech festival at Wilson, I was there
Oh, yeah.
because where I'm from, Canopolis is just about 30 miles from.
Oh yeah, sweet. Yeah, we're not.
I graduated graduate
too
from
far.
Ellsworth High. So.
Sure, absolutely. Bearcats, right?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep. Yep.
So-
Ran track at Sterling and all that good stuff.
Sure,
That
okay.
area. So.
But yeah, I mean, I had a short update for this time around, but if you guys have any questions, comments, I'm happy to answer or whatnot. But
How do you get a bear out of a cat?
A bearcat is a real animal.
I know,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't look like a bear and a cat, though.
Yeah, I can't disagree.
Right.
Yeah, I can't disagree. Welcome aboard.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Look forward to having you.
Look forward to working with you.
Thank you. I've heard nothing but great things and I said, I'm excited to be here and get started and everyone's been great so far.
Good.
Appreciate it.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next commissioner, you have Brian Pete at 10:15.
My family, part of this works in Mulvane, right? Bearcat's better than what we got going on down in Mulvane. Green. Like a green wildcat, right?
The green wildcat?
Yeah, in Mulvane Wildcats.
I do not know.
It's like whoever heard of a green wildcat? It's the green color.
Yeah, everyone knows they're purple.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah,
Even Northwestern, they're purple.
That's
yeah,
right.
they have to be.
It's their favorite color.
For heaven's sakes, I lost it.
When we graduate from high school.
Oh, yeah, I remember. Calling
Uh-huh.
Somebody took them. It's weird. No, there's my. Do that.
There.
One color green too.
Well,
Well,
that's what my dad always used to say. Wildcat.
took one, well, where the others went. They're trying. Oh, there they are. Let's see. Bit them. I think I'm gonna read it for the best. Thing.
Increase our income was more, or debt is higher. Can't be right.
No.
Afraid they didn't understand the register of deeds report.
Maybe we didn't have anything in this year.
And that even wouldn't be dead, that was just money that we lost.
Sure.
That's bad news.
What?
I gotta reschedule that flight.
Please tell me.
I'm just kidding.
At least 5
You should look, see the look on your face. Oh, how ridiculous was
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. Well, the first lady just wanted to get me off the phone, right?
Yeah.
Like, as soon as she answered, she's like. And then it's like,
Oh, you know,
saying
that's,
her name.
oh my gosh, you know, that's gonna work out.
Yeah. And then she was annoyed with me at the end and I was like, I've never canceled a flight before. I just need help. I need.
She had to call Anti-American Airlines the other day. Yeah.
I worked for at least 2 hours with him in my office trying to get it done.
Yeah.
After that, it was at least another 3. You would be surprised to know that I was not listening to Taylor Swift last night. when you said that.
That's funny.
I laughed a lot when I read your email. I was like, okay.
I try to put a little humor in there, okay.
Just saying.
That's what it's like every time I need.
Oh,
well, yeah. Yeah.
Play that violin for you.
I thought it was supposed to be like this.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Brian. How you doing?
Good, sir, yourself?
All right, until this cold weather hits.
Uh-huh. Well, it's supposed to be warm today at 40.
Yeah, I know. We better enjoy it next 2 days. Better enjoy it.
Plummet,
Huh?
in a plummet next.
Oh, I know. Sunday and Monday.
Also want to make sure that since the council was talking about, or the commission was talking about the Bearcat, I just want to make sure you all are aware of the man bear.
Oh, yeah.
Half
Yeah.
man, half bear and half pig.
Yeah.
I don't think everybody understands.
Clearly, it's only about two south.
Yeah, yeah.
And it looks like Commissioner Board's one of them.
Yeah,
You're a South Park fan?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Why is that so surprising?
It's not.
Oh.
That should be news to anybody.
You can knock on the door.
Can do.
I heard talking to you on the phone. Oh, right, oh, all right, go ahead.
Okay, good morning, County Commission. It is great to see everybody here this nice day after the holidays, safe and sound. What I figured to do today was just provide end of the year statistics to the commission as well as to the public who's listening, and then just give two brief updates on Fake Patty's Day and the soon to be released crime reduction plan. So some general statistics to let the commission know. Looking at part one crimes for this year, our total is about 162 for those of a violent, for part one violent, and part one property crimes, we're about 907. For sexual related offenses, I think we've totaled out at about 45, and then for drug related offenses, 181. For the average daily inmate population within the jail, for December was 124, and the year average was 114. Last year's average was 115.5. So for the part one crimes for the month of December, it was 21.9, about 22% above the 5-year average. Part one crime was down about 14% from the 5-year average at the end of 2024. They were for violent crime for that month were both for part one and for property crime and for violent crime were both above the 5-year average. If you all may remember, this is where we had for this particular quarter, we had domestic violence related, we had shooting related incidences that had occurred. And I can also say that we're very, very close to solving some of those and bringing suspected offenders to justice. So part one violent crimes, we were about 3% above the 5-year average. Year to date, we're down 10% from the 5-year average. There were 14 aggravated assaults and batteries, 2 rapes, 1 robbery, and 0 homicides during the month of December. For robbery, there was 1 robbery reported in December, which was equal to the 5-year average. Year to date, 2024 was down 45% from the 5-year average. There was no arrest for that robbery as of January 8th of this month. There were 6 aggravated batteries and 8 aggravated assaults reported during the month of December. This is 9% above the 5-year average. Aggravated assaults and batteries are down 8% from the 5-year average to date. 2 of the incidents in December were domestic related. And as of the 8th of this month, there were arrests in 5 of those incidents. For part one property crimes, crime was down about 25% for the 5-year average. Property crime year to date is 14% below the year average. The 5-year average, I apologize. And property crime for December of last year included 6 burglaries, 5 larcenies from motor vehicles, 1 auto theft, and 0 arsons. There were the rest were incidences that were larcenies, which was a total of 69. For structural burglaries, we were about 10% below the 5-year average for December. Year to date, burglaries were down about 31% from the 5-year average. 3 of the burglaries were non-residential and 10 were residential. 9 occurred in Manhattan and 4 occurred in Ogden. For vehicle burglaries, we were 145% above the 5-year average. Year to date, vehicle burglaries were down 14% from the 5-year average. There was a forced entry noted in 12 of those reports. The majority of these, and this would likely involved 2 individuals who were both found and arrested, one on December 10th and the other December 22nd. 39 of those cases, which is about 82%, occurred on or before December 10th. So the bottom of the story is, we saw that uptick. We were able to attribute it to 2 individuals, and those individuals have since been arrested in 4 cases. Motor vehicle thefts were down about 22% from the 5-year average. Year to date, we were down 12%. 7 of the 8 vehicles have been recovered as of the 1st of January of this year. 2 of the incidences were an attempted motor vehicle theft. The number of DUIs for last month was 53 below the 5-year average for December, which is a good thing. Just DUIs year to date from in 2024 were about 9% below the 5-year average. And then traffic accidents, the number of accidents in December were 18% above the 5-year average. Year to date accidents were up about 12% from the 5-year average. And then finally, preventable traffic accidents in last month, we were looking at about 20% above the 5-year average, keeping in mind these are like driving while occupied, like looking at your phone, cell phones, not concentrating on what you're supposed to be doing. Year to date, our preventable accidents were up about 7%. The final 2 things I want to bring up to the commission were talking about the crime reduction plan. That crime reduction plan is relatively new, something I introduced last year. It's more of the vision of how we're going to get to or where we want to go. And then the strategic plan that we'll release next month will talk about the specific things that we plan to do to get to where we're going. And that's going to be input from the now majors. The captains have switched from the rank of captain to major. There's no increase in salary or benefits. It's just a title change. And those folks are going to provide their input on how they're going to get to where we need to go for that vision. So that crime reduction plan will be released to everyone within the county, as well as to those who are the clerks, those folks who are in charge of the municipalities within the county, to make sure we get that out. We just wanted to make sure our law board saw it first before we were able to push it out to other folks. And finally, Fake Patty's Day. We have begun. We have been continuously planning regarding Fake Patty's Day, but we are getting more and more into the weeds as the weeks go through. Again, our hope is to keep it safe. We don't want to dictate people's morals or what we believe they should or shouldn't be doing, but we want to make sure that our community stays safe. We want to make sure there's protection for property as well. And again, the majority of problems that we see are individuals who are coming from outside of town and believe that there are no repercussions for inappropriate behaviors. So that's going to be, the continued focus. But also, we're working with the Aggieville Business Association and trying to see, is there a way that we can work towards keeping things safe for everyone? Because the Riley County Police Department will not arrest its way out of this. These young folks, they're just going to keep pushing back no matter how much you tell them. It's not physically to their benefit to drink all day and do those different things, but we're just going to look for different ways that we can help one another and make this event safe for the entire community, but also trying to move it away from the residential areas. And if folks do decide to have fun in the residential areas, that we do a big push to let them know, be responsible in how they do things. Similar to what we did last year, but increase that type of pressure. Other than that, I stand ready for any questions that the commission may have. Okay. Thank you all very much.
Next commissioner has Brittany at 10:30. You.
You going to the game tonight, John? I see you're at purple line.
No, I don't think so.
I hope they start.
Arizona.
Arizona?
Yeah.
Oh.
They don't play another ranked team until like first week in February.
Yeah, last.
And it gets kind of condensed. I do need to go see them a few more times. They're really fun to watch.
Yeah.
They really are. The men.
I went to bed.
I was there, it was painful.
Anybody having strength to watch Saturday?
Oh,
We play at K.
yeah. You know what'll happen?
We'll fly her out.
That'll be the game we probably win.
Yeah,
First time in like 20 years.
you're right.
Yeah, you kind of took a beating.
They did.
They've been beaten, but
No, I mean, a good beating by Iowa State,
Yeah.
57-74.
Wow.
they're not.
And he doesn't have it figured out either.
Mm-mm.
It is just so much fun to watch the ladies though, because it reminds you, okay, this is how basketball is. supposed to
Yeah,
be.
exactly.
I mean, I was in school, the last really good women's basketball team, and this team's more fun to watch because it's not, the team was kind of programmed, you know? It was either Oldie, it was either Wecker, or it was Kane shooting a three, and there was nothing else.
Yeah.
Here, you got
You've got options.
lots of
Because
options.
when Aoki's not in, they're.
Yeah,
It changes,
They're
but they're still
still-
good.
yeah. They can go small, they can go big.
They go fa- when she- and they-
Yeah, go
they put in
fast.
some Fast
Yeah.
ones, they can
Oh,
help
yeah.
move up and down the floor.
And I know how to pass.
Yeah.
They're fun to watch, they really are.
It's true. Yeah, you got lost.
Yeah.
Utah.
Or stolen.
Or stolen.
Fortunately, it had a backup. Yeah, proud of me. I drank coffee yesterday.
Warm my heart. So yeah,
I went to work and I'm like, oh man, I need something.
rubbing off on you for the proximity.
No, I was just tired. I went to the coffee machine, was like, all right, we're gonna have to do this morning. That was at 5 a.m. So I figured I'd just wear off the caffeine by the time I got home.
Did that happen?
Yeah.
We're off. Yeah. That's good. Way through school without being a coffee drinker. It was only after.
I think I did too, if you think of it.
I've made it through this many years without coffee. I always loved the smell of it.
Yeah.
My college survival tactic was Mountain Dew and Vibram. Not a good combination if you do too much, trust me.
That explains a lot, actually.
Good.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brittany Phillips, Budget and Finance Officer, here to present the first CIP work session for 2025. So first up here, we have the estimated cash position. This is as of December 31st. So this would be the final, and these are the exact numbers I just presented earlier this week with my cash flows. So this estimated cash is about $16,867,392. We have our reserve funds broken out here. We have CIP reserve, fair reserve, FFE, which is the Federal Fund Exchange for Public Works, the CARES Fund, and then the other projects was the radio money that we had, and we found out we actually don't have to pay that, and so that is still sitting there.
What, why?
That's a great question.
Why
We haven't
what?
determined-
Why is it under reserve? Other isn't that what CIP is, other projects?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't know why, shouldn't it just be rolled into the other stuff? I
We
don't know.
can, but we don't want to do it until you guys do formal action to do that. So we'll be presented to you guys to do that. We don't just do that.
Okay, well, like I said, this,
That's why.
but yeah, to me, the other projects is what CIP is.
Mhm. So that total reserve is at $4,863,101. And then, of course, all the transfers for 2024 and bond payments were made. We've already, started the 2025 year, so we've already also made the general fund transfer into CIP as well. So here are the projects that were sent to me for request. I also have an additional one that I received yesterday that is more of an emergency level. Otherwise, we wouldn't just slip it in, but it was for noxious weed. He had an engine blow up on one of his trucks. So he is requesting a new truck. That is at $65,000. So this total amount would actually change to $1,214,000 with the noxious weed truck there as well.
Is there a form on that?
I do have one, but since we received it
Not in the
yesterday, yeah,
packet.
it's not in the packet.
It just showed up yesterday. There's no way.
Yeah, but
Yeah, there's no way.
So parks, we have 4 requests. Totaling the $246,000. So we have the add-on equipment, the surf cart, the storage building for Fairmont Park, and then that playground equipment for Eco Park for the $75,000. We also have a museum request. Okay, so museum was $50,000. And that is for the rooftop HVAC system. And the health department still has their replacement EMR that we asked for last CIP session. We brought it back again for this one, and that is $250,000.
where is that?
There's this one. So this is what they use to like for billing and all their patients' information as well. So that system that they have, and Corey, correct me if I'm wrong, but they are moving out of Kansas. And so right now we are one of 3 other clients that still have it. And they are looking to move, just completely get out of Kansas. And so we are still needing a replacement option for this. And I know Jacob Clark in the health department has looked at other softwares as well, and he has recommendations, but they don't have the grant funding for it, and that's why we're requesting it on the CIP.
It seemed like last time they weren't ready to switch, was it, or something? That's why we delayed it. 'Cause we-
We delayed it. We were in the process of hiring our new director for the health department. And so I presented it and brought it forward so that it was on the list and discussions could start, but I did ask for you to table it to 25. I have met with Diane and gone over their situation and where they're at. They're one of 3 remaining counties. The other 2 counties are already in an RFP process for a replacement, which kind of says that we're last at this particular point. We did some research in our department, what other counties had done and what their costs were. So the 250 was an earmark based on what others have done, Saline County and some others that we talked with. I met with Diana, went over this, where they're at on things, and she was on her second day, I think it was, when I met with her. She was happy to have something in hand to be able to focus on as she was getting to know everyone. So, our IT department will really become a support to them now and what they might need out of that. But Diane would be lead for this, but I will have on my calendar to follow up with her on a monthly basis and see how they're going and what she needs from us. It would be my recommendation that this would move forward at some point this year. But that would now come forward, and the direction they go and who they choose, and that process would be led by Dave.
Okay, yeah, I mean, eventually they'll come to us with when they make a decision on who they want to switch to.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Public Works also had 5 requests on here for a total of $603,000. Sorry, there's so much scrolling. Going back to the page. And so he has the trailer, the truck with the plow and spreader, another truck, and then a 7-passenger van. So those are the requests that we have before you today. Are there any questions about any of these individual ones?
One on the parks, I know he's had it on there for Seco Park before. We talked about, we wanted to have a full, there's a whole lot needs to be done up there. Do we have a plan of exactly what's going to be done up there? That 75 isn't going to take care of all the problems we've got up there.
Right, and if I remember correctly, we request this almost every work session. We do an additional $75,000 and we're building it up. I don't know about the exact plans.
I don't think there was. One time there was a big brand Geo's plan. I think it's now about 10 years old. And so older. And
It's about 14, isn't it?
so I thought that was kind of outdated. At some point, just talked about Seco Park and fairgrounds, so I kind of pushed back, held back on it, coming to ask you about what we want to do there. But this 75 was to build up a good sum of money to redo the playground. We're at 3.5 or so total. I think we're over $500,000 for playground equipment, depending on what you want.
Oh, yeah.
What we want to do. I had the idea of maybe come back with a master plan or some kind of a bigger study or some kind of thoughts of getting the community involved in what was needed, what was wanted before.
Well, we did this, yeah.
But this is the
But this
way
is
to
just
bank money.
We've just been banking that so much.
To do something with the community.
Well, I'd like to see us get someone to draw a master plan of what we're gonna do, like you said, and the park has a lot of space that could be utilized to move some things around, and we don't know if we're even gonna have a playground. So I think we ought to have some money set aside for some sort of a plan, a consultant to do a plan for us. Because Seco Park is really critical in the community, and we need to figure out what we're doing. We can't sit on it.
I don't think that's ever been committed.
Mm-mm.
It's just that was your idea is to do a master plan.
Yeah.
The playground improvement. I don't know if it needs $1 million.
That equipment is extraordinarily expensive
Yeah.
at that level, the commercial level stuff.
That is
Liability is their liability insurance.
Yeah.
Manufacturers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but
Catherine has a good point. I mean, it's all related to the commission's talked about replacing Potworth. What are we doing with the fairgrounds?
goes to our second subject of strategic plan.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's all a domino effect, kind of like the other parts of what it's all the domino effect, what moves first and what do we need to move on. That one is a large ticket item
Huge thing. Yeah.
with Potworth and the fairgrounds. And so some major decisions would have to be made. That park is heavily used by the community. The playground equipment section of it is heavily used.
There,
Did you not let us
do it somewhere else.
Yeah, I wouldn't go look at it on Sunday and Monday of next week, this coming week, but other than that, it's heavily used.
Who does that kind of a plan? I mean, are there specialty people
Oh, for
that
sure.
do, we can get that done?
I think the company that did the last one is out of business, but the designer that was on it is still around.
Anderson Knight had a conceptual drawing at one point in time.
Yeah.
Anybody can do that.
And you can probably contact USD 383. They've just redone a lot of theirs in the grade schools here around
See
town
what they
with the really
do.
nice equipment. I've noticed this past year they did.
But to have an overall of where we're gonna put
Mhm.
Potter and where we're gonna do this, I mean, those kinds of things.
Back on asking for a master plan, especially since we started talking more about fairgrounds and what to do there, so, and we weren't. I don't think we were anywhere close to having enough money to build something.
Do anything, yeah.
We've got to do something with Potter and playground and, just to know where things go.
Mhm.
Basically, in that whole 51 acres we've got over there. Almost 52, I think.
Are there any other questions about any other individual items or?
Yeah, where are you at with the accounting software?
That is a year-to-year question. I mean, really, same story, our vendor has 5 counties or so about that, and we're the largest, the other big player in the state. While staff may at times, have, concerns about our vendor, I can show you email strings of many concerns the other counties have with the other largest vendor, and these are canned products. These are products that counties our size and smaller can really afford. The next option is custom, and that dollar figure I have there is not enough. I can tell you that. You can probably double it, Corey, or.
Yes, sir.
So, my philosophy on it is because I get questions from appraiser's office, other staff in my office are frustrated with our vendor. I said, well, look at what our options are. And I say, if it's not broke, don't fix it. If it's broke, then we're going to have to fix it. But it's a huge undertaking and we don't have any affordable options. Our next best option, you better double the budget at least. And so, like I say, it's working, it's functioning until they go belly up. And they know we're their biggest customer. They cater to us, at least compared to the other vendor. We may not like their response sometimes, but we always get a hold of someone. I can't say that with the biggest vendor in the state, in the counties that contact them. As a matter of fact, we may have someone with the county that used to work for that vendor. He's hiding in the back. That's where we found him.
Yep.
So it's all about customer service. Every company you go with will promise you the moon. As you've heard, commissioners, I'm timing out, but Eileen King and I implemented the first computerized tax and accounting system here, and it was they joined with this company early on, CIC, currently Comtech and CIC, and we basically built it for them. I was the one doing presentations as the accountant in the treasurer's office on how to use it across the state because the programmers knew I knew how to use it. I went from the general ledger that's this big and this thick into a computer system. And so I knew it inside and out. And so any company that comes in to rebuild it, our staff will have to do all the work. And it's a tremendous amount of work. Tremendous amount.
Can't imagine. Well, if this is the audit.
Yeah, that's nothing.
If it takes that much just for the overview.
So yeah, it's going to need to be done at some point in time. As I've told commissioners, the Register of Deeds and Treasurer's Office both have tech funds. I haven't touched a dime of my tech fund money as long as I'm here.
My whole intention was for that money to go towards that. The rules statutory, it has to be spent on something real estate related. That's in state statute. I forget what I have in there even now, because 150 some thousand or so, I've never spent a dime of it, was to be used towards that as well. That's because I know it's going to have to happen at some point in time for the county. It's not going to be small. And so at that point in time, at least while I'm here, I'm completely fine with the county using all of that money for that. And that is monies each of us three as elected officials have sole authority on how to spend it, as long as it's real estate related.
Any other questions?
Michael, your truck was snow removal word out. I'm guessing.
Yes, sir. I had actually talked with Brittany and about maybe asking for it, but I was hoping to get one more season out of it, but Mother Nature made that decision for me. And yes, this is a casualty of 5,000 pounds of salt and then pushing 14 inches of snow. And we just dropped a valve and hit the piston. And so the question may be, what's the cost of repair? Repair the motor would be about $15,000, but the reality of it is the transmission's next, the transfer case is next, the rear differential is next.
It's the age that you
Yeah,
need it.
and this is a pretty vital piece of equipment. And so we need it to work. Need it quickly. So I just wanted the opportunity to explain repair versus buying new. And I'm very confident this is the correct decision. Yes, the snow removal, as we often talk, it's hard to judge the cost of what it is to the county. The reality of it is that kind of burden on equipment, this spring when a transmission burns up, it's probably really related to the snowfall, but there's no way to really measure that. That's what's hard. It's the damage that occurs to the equipment might not necessarily make it fail, but it certainly reduces the life. In this particular case, this truck only had 70,000 miles on it. Now, those are 70,000 hard working truck miles. They're not the equivalent of your truck that you would drive to work every day. So, but yes, appreciate the opportunity to answer.
I think the commission knows, the number one designation is the department head's main priority, the number ones in those columns and on down the line. Didn't know if the commissioners wanted to consider taking any action on any of these items. It's with CIP, gets rather expensive very quickly, but if you don't maintain stuff, then it all comes to roost at some point in time, i.e. the reason we originally went to a 0.5-cent sales tax years ago.
Question on anything?
Commissioners not like to take any action at this time, have staff bring it back for you to review it, or what would you like us to do?
Okay with it now, actually.
Yeah, I guess. I would like to have had a little bit more time to look at it.
Well,
You can have, we can bring it back.
Come back.
We can bring it back.
But it's, looked all over, it's okay.
Yeah, I don't know that. I'm gonna come to any different conclusion if I look at it more. How much are you looking at for a truck, Mike?
I just called, they have a state bid, it would be 58,000 for the truck, but there's some cushion there too, because we got to outfit it with new bed, wiring, that sort of thing. So I'm very confident that 65 is going to cover to replace the truck.
But it will cost that much to repair it, probably. We talked about-
15,000 for the replacement motor, but as I said.
Then we got
What year is it?
transmission and
Sorry,
What year is it?
it's a 2015, so we got 10 years of use out of it.
What size of truck was this, Mike?
It's an F-550. In that particular year, that V10 does not have a very good track record. It doesn't give me the great feeling to replace it since it's already failed. It's a very weak link in that truck, and then since replaced that design, it's a lot more reliable. So I just feel that repairing is confident it's not the right decision.
Mhm.
We started spec'ing diesels in our 550
Getting diesels in your 550s?
because of the trailers and snow.
that amount was how much for that?
So, yeah, for the
65?
truck is 65. If you approved all the projects, and Michael's truck, it is $1,214,000.
And that's for the CIP reserve, basically, for the actual.
Well, it's for all the items that we have authorization for us in here for, yes.
What if you went with a diesel? Is that gonna hold up longer, or is that more expensive, or what?
Well, I've actually discussed that with the fleet sales that Shawnee mentioned in snow package. That's not their recommendation. That's at least the guidance I've been provided, that they feel that the gas for snowplow purposes, especially with the weight on the front of the truck, that's the guidance I've been given to go. I don't know how much more a diesel is. Of course, when you're dealing with diesel, then you're dealing with DEF, and then you're dealing with gelling issues in the wintertime. My personal opinion is, and what I've been told by the experts is, it's going to be used out in snow like that. The way I consider the gas option.
You doing the motion on this?
Yes, we do on any action you want to take, as presented, or any modifications the board would like to, up into including the truck for Michael's department.
Well, I would make a motion to accept the CIP recommendations as presented.
And adding,
And adding the new truck, noxious weeds.
Commissioner, could it be worded to say approved instead of accept the motion to approve this? Because that way we
Okay.
approve the expenditure.
And that's
Okay.
how it is in the here.
I didn't
as
go
written
all the
out.
way back
That's-
to the
yeah, no
top.
problem, no problem.
I'm just being
Okay.
persnickety.
I would revise my motion to they approved rather than accept.
I'll second.
That's what it's called.
It's too far.
Been moved and seconded to approve the CIP expenditures as listed, for a total of $1,214,000. All in favor?
Commissioner, I think the motion.
To include the truck for.
Well, that's what the one.
It does.
It does.
Oh, it's
Oh,
okay.
That's only-
Price added.
Yeah. I added
Oh, okay.
65 to it.
Yeah.
Perfect, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Aye.
That's the most important part.
Just be sure you get the correct motion to Cindy to put in there, with all the details.
On that, you said that other one back there on moving that money out of the reserve into the other one.
We'll have Brittany bring that back in the next week or two.
Oh, make that a separate thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll just
All
do
right.
that. That way everyone's on the same page what we're doing, little history on it. I think the
Okay.
history is important. There was a reason why it was originally done.
No, I know, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I know why it was
Mhm.
done and now it's,
Just for the public on why we're
okay.
moving it, and those that, the other entities, they're part of that system as well. That way they understand.
If commissioners just want to add real quick, what I didn't mention about the diesel option is Public Works utilizes their trucks for hauling, and we don't tow with them. And that would be the big difference on diesel versus gas too, so I don't want to make it look like none of us is making.
Like John's wrong.
Yes.
We already know he is. but don't worry about it.
It's a different use.
You okay if I move on?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. The next item is.
Good.
Okay. Next item is the strategic plan discussion. So as you all are aware, we started this process back in July when we started conducting interviews with Shockey Consulting. Those interviews were conducted with department heads, elected officials, and other staff for informational purposes. And then after the interviews were conducted, we had the building tour on September 20th, and then we had the actual retreat on September 25th, where we all were dying in the hot building. Yeah, just so we're all aware of that trauma together.
Before you get started, I have a comment to make. I think that, this is kind of putting the cart before the horse. Just, what you recommended, because, this should be a decision, a policy, decision for us to give it to you to make a report on. We should be, all three of us should be on the same page and have like a work session to decide what we want to do based on this. We haven't done that yet. I know you've done a lot of work on it. We didn't give you the authority to work on this plan.
Oh, you
Yes,
did.
Yeah,
You
we did.
It's been presented before this board that the budget and plan committee would bring a recommendation to the board
Recommendation.
based on the final report.
Right. And
You
we
absolutely did.
take it or not take it.
But I think that we need to have a work session with the three of us before we make any final decisions. on this.
That's what this is.
So,
Yeah.
That's what this is.
Okay, so since we had the
This is a
retreat.
work session. This is not a work session.
And we received the final strategic plan back from Shockey Consulting. We gave it to the commissioners, I believe back in November when we had our county officials luncheon. And it is included in the packet as well. And the Budget and Planning Committee has been discussing next steps. And so we really tried to focus on other projects that were already going on, like we have the window project that Public Works is working on in this building. And kind of worked with that along with the strategic plan. And our recommendation is to do one office at a time, starting with the counselor's office, commission, and then moving over to the clerk's office. And then after that, we would wait for the completion of the fire and emergency management moving out into their other building. And then we would renovate fire and emergency management to expand GIS. And IT would move in there. And then we would have the appraiser's office expand into IT so they have more room as well. And then we also discussed a couple of space studies, one for a judicial center, and then an additional one for the health department because they're in those two buildings. And then it had been discussed at the strategic retreat to maybe combine those buildings if possible. So that is our recommendation from the Budget and Planning Committee, but obviously final decision is made here. So any comments, questions?
Well, the strategic plan shows the commission and the council are eventually moving. I don't see any point. I don't know this is dump here, but I don't see any point in, as you said, until we have a final plan of what we're doing. The clerk's office, I know, because you can move elections out, they got kind of a plan of what they want to do in there. And the other ones, like I say, it was kind of implied that once we get EM moved out, moving IT and appraisers, I mean, that's a long-range plan, that makes sense, but it doesn't make. To me, it doesn't make any sense to do anything to the commissioner or counselors till we know. Long-term what we're doing.
That was my thoughts.
Yeah, mine too.
And when we're doing a space needs study, which we do need to do, by the way, but it kind of helps to know where you're going with it in order to be able to do a space needs study, which we kind of don't at the moment.
No,
I don't know, maybe you can develop a building and you can plan it, but it would probably be much better to know the space you're working with to do that space needs study. Don't really know that we're there yet. Maybe we get there before the end of the year, maybe. I'm not necessarily hopeful, but
we can have, since some of that depends on some pending litigation potentially.
right.
Right, we can have that discussion, right, in the context of providing an update to the pending litigation.
Okay.
Right, and we can do that in a, separately, right, and that might help provide some definition, if that's useful.
That's kind of stickiness. That's a real
Right.
sticking point before we know
Part of
what
the
we're
plan,
doing.
like I said, we don't know where.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree. You're gonna have to do that at some point in time for those three. But it just doesn't.
And does the appraiser really want to move? I mean, the appraiser and IT, are you okay on moving where that
Mhm.
proposal is?
They are.
It's what makes logical.
Yeah.
sense. It's
Yeah,
what's
it
best
does.
For all of Riley County, I mean. So. Want to or whatever, it's more of a need, it's what's necessary.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
Well, I understand
Yeah.
that, but want to
And
make
that-
sure that you're on board.
it's the
with that.
logical decisions to make, Is it as simple as just moving? No,
No,
but it's what's
Especially
logical
your
for long
department.
term.
And it was, when we had the strategic plan, both of those were highlighted as high urgency.
Mhm.
So I mean, they were both on that list of things that we needed to focus on first.
Yeah, well, we need to get a plan on that, on how it would be designed. Same thing with your office.
So it has been some time, of course, since we've discussed this, but everything we've talked about and everything you've questioned has been talked about multiple times before this board with all these other departments. And so this isn't something the Budget and Planning Committee just came up with on their own. It's been coordination with all the other departments. And we even talked about here, the commission chambers and the counselors, commissioners, if the church gets cleared up tomorrow, it's 5 years before you get a new judicial center.
Sure.
So part of the reason and discussion at strategic plan is all of these came before you, before we even did the strategic plan, said we want to see some action if we're even going to bother spending the money on a strategic plan. So doing the renovations is starting to see some action taken and
Yeah.
getting done. And so
That makes sense.
one commissioner's expressed wanting to renovate the commission chambers. And so that's where all of this has come from multiple discussions with this board and department heads. And so just know that it will be a while before a centralized judicial center would be built and these chambers and or counselor's office may be moved. Because then it's still going to be subject to the vote of the public.
Well, what I thought in here originally was just moving some things around and maybe some new carpet paint, that kind of, nothing major that could
Like I
not.
said, if we would just some minor,
We could do
paint
some
it,
minor stuff.
clean it up a little bit. But a major thing doesn't.
We're gonna be doing the windows, so we,
I'm certainly, just looking at, it, I mean, I kind of thought the same thing there. There's been several different discussions of, if the county attorney moves into a judicial center of moving potentially into that, I mean, I still think that that's not off the table, but I'm absolutely in favor of making some renovations in your office. If we want to make a 1, 2, 3 type of priority, obviously we got to wait for fire EM to move out to do the other ones. And I'm basically at that point in time would be all for, as we do that phase 2 project, to start planning and developing what we're going to do right behind that and just start that process and roll right into it.
and we could start the discussion, or an architect could start the discussion with those two, with the space that we've got, and have it ready to go once the fire moves out. So that's.
For sure.
Commissioners, I did email you that graphic that I took, where we had all the sticky notes, I just emailed it to you again, but if you took the judicial center, like Rich mentioned, the other areas would be covered that are considered high urgency. The clerk, the appraiser, IT, everything else that is high urgency is part of that judicial center, and so I think that does go along with what the group had discussed at the strategic planning.
And I've seen the space needs for the court and attorneys until we know where it's gonna go. It probably doesn't make sense. Some kind of a space need for the health one, I think, is needed to figure out. We've got a big empty space there and a big spread out spot, but maybe we do need to look at that one to figure out how we need to rearrange that stuff.
That's a pretty good size project, Chairman, that, I mean, I think you could do an analysis of just that campus there and say what could be done. And that's one that could be started in the next year and a half or two, because I mean, there's even some questions, and health department's probably listening, about how much space they really need. I mean, they've just, Anza's gone. They've got many conference rooms, and just talking openly about discussions that have been had. And even the new director, when she went through there, said, man, there's a lot of space here.
And that's what, you know, if we, like I say, with tons of space, moving stuff out. Because if it does, the space needs that we've got to, that what's called the FCRC now, there's gonna be vacant space there. That opens up for something. I don't have anything around mine in particular, but
right.
If we do have an open space, then that adds to us that we have space available to move in something.
I think that space needs analysis study on those two facilities. You could start right away.
What about it? I know that we have talked about corrections being in the judicial center, but maybe moving them over there in that building permanently, because there's a bus stop there. We could work with ATA to make sure that it's accessible for their clients and what have.
Like I say, I know that was one of the possibilities.
And not a temporary, but a permanent.
Right.
Right.
That could be really good because they need an outside entrance, and
there is a back entrance too there.
There is.
Part of that discussion though is centered around most of the work they do with their clients is downtown with the courts. So being on the other side of town isn't that.
Well, but they gotta need to talk to Megan, see how much, because it talks, but I don't know how much they actually interact with courts day to day, do they? That's something we need to look into before we move them.
Right.
My impression is yes, from talking to Megan, but those are like, we have to ask those right questions.
Yeah.
But I don't think when she talked about moving, the point of what they need has a greater value than being close to the courts. It's an aspect. So obviously ideal is the judicial center. But that's always out.
The only thing I would add from legal perspective, right, because this is all facilities and policy stuff, right, but legally, and this is why I want to have an executive session to discuss the current status of the litigation, right, and to provide, there may be some ways to establish some paths forward, right, that the commission can consider that account for regardless of what the result of the litigation is, right? And I think that's something that we can talk about, you know, but again, it's because it involves true potential, I mean, not just potential, but actual litigation. We need to have that discussion in executive session because it ties into the case. Right. But it's not like there's, right, I'm totally capable of talking about it from the bench because it's basically, it's a known, it's the public part of, and then we can talk about how that impacts the litigation. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Any direction you'd like to give staff at this time, Commissioner, to keep things moving?
I'd like to go ahead and start contacting somebody that the space needs for the health department and for the health department with those two buildings to see what we can do with them, because there's a lot of space in both of them that could be better used. It seems from walking through them.
You heard that, John?
Yes.
I would, I heard Commissioner Cokie said if it's possibly moving forward with architects and designs and things, that the complexity of what an IT office move would be. I know if people come in our office, they see where we're at, but they don't
There's
go
whole
into
rooms
the
full of
internal
stuff
areas
around
where we have all of our servers, all of our connections for phone systems. We have so many security devices and pieces in there that are tied to all the doors throughout the entire county. And the amount of work that it would take to make that move. I don't think it makes much logical sense that I move 5 people over here, but we also don't move all of that
All that equipment.
IT server equipment as well.
Yeah.
So moving forward now with plans and designs and those kind of things, because that will take a while to get done and to develop what that plan would look like and what that move would look like and the cost of those things. So
that was my second recommendation was start working on the clerk. Your move and Fraser, get it architects
Yes,
to
fine.
figure out
yeah,
what we need to do on those 3 items. To get started on those 2. Because I know, moving you is gonna be a major
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
operation.
so thank you.
It was such a major operation, just working with the new EMS building, all that it took to get you coordinated up there.
Yeah.
That, it takes a lot.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Works for me.
So,
So do we need motions on what we're doing or the
do we need to
consensus?
get an RFP put
Consensus.
together?
Yeah, that's what they'll.
Well, that's what John will be working on an RFP. That John's in charge of facilities, so.
Okay.
I think he's trying to hide back there.
I know, he has scrunched down a lot.
It's on the floor there. Well, what kind of help do you need to get all that put together? That's-
People.
What?
That all?
6 more people.
6 more people to help you with design.
David, I assume you're here because you need more facilities?
I'm here to.
Oh, okay. Just wondering.
You're gonna be here for a while.
You can help John then.
I'll help John. I tried to help John, but Amanda didn't like my input.
Well, it's gonna take a major undertaking to get the RFP.
It sure
Yeah.
does. Good job.
So want to be sure we got the commissioner's consensus, right? And Greg fill in the space. The health department space needs analysis, clerk's renovation, and then also the analysis of moving IT over to here and appraiser's office.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those 3, those are
Those
the
are
items I
critical.
think need to be done.
I think those are.
The
no
judicial
brainers.
centers on top of my list, but we're hands are tied right now.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we need-
Definitely.
Talk about that. You want to schedule an executive session sometime.
Anything else on strategic plan? You know, we have next steps lined out.
We'll have some more later.
Thank you.
Maybe, are we gonna have to do RFPs like for separate buildings or separate departments, or how is that gonna come together?
Well, the clerk's office and thing, it'd be just like Bruce did for the 4th floor. So that's the easiest of them. And you'd be something similar with IT and appraiser's office. Now, of course, the health department's gonna be an RFP for services for a much bigger project that John will have to put together.
So maybe a couple different.
But yeah, are we gonna want separate architects for each one of those 3 booths or one combine them?
John and I have talked about this, and John and I are meeting with another architect, actually Brent Bowman and Associates. There's they're aware of our discussions we've been having. We're gonna be having a discussion with Nancy Burton here next month or so, and John has had the idea he would like to spread it out amongst the local architects.
Cause that way can,
Mhm.
they won't have all.
With these individual small projects, maybe, like you say, by building, would be a way to do it.
Yeah.
And there's Anderson Knight, they're good, they're good
Mhm.
architects and.
John's already thought about that.
And I know Bruce is really tied up, he's really. And the windows.
He's retired.
Yeah, he's retired. but-
He hasn't figured
Yeah,
out.
right.
I talked to Gary about that. He said he's retired, but he's still here.
Yeah, he's not retired.
In name only, maybe. Okay, good, well, I think we've made some progress, yeah.
Yeah.
It's good.
This morning.
Yeah.
prepared.
You can't hurt, it's okay.
We lose one.
Exactly, right notes on there.
Am I up next?
Yes.
Yeah, here in about 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
That's next Saturday, isn't it? Yeah.
It is
Yeah. Our employment.
already.
That's about going.
Hot.
Well, yeah, it's a balmy, almost 40 degrees out there.
Careful playing, Shine.
I am not, no.
T-shirt.
I'm ready to see some melting.
Yeah, me too. It's like dodging the ice between the ice and the snow, trying to go back and forth.
And it's up to my knee. I'm worried on the ice and.
Oh, I know, me too.
Terrible. I mean, it's just got tired now. I slipped on something.
Well, I really got myself in trouble shoveling snow. I shouldn't have done that because I messed up my back and my sciatic nerve and they just put me on steroids.
We hired somebody. Done. I was gonna take pictures and send to my kids and say, fine. And they would have to fit. And my wife said, I already told them we hired somebody. No, that's it. And I'm gonna do it on the show. See what I did? Because they all go, what that?
My daughter was some guys, I called them, I said, come over, is it? And they never showed up.
Oh.
So I waited a couple of days, I'm like, okay, I've got it. So I did it to them by a little.
And it's one, because I did the sidewalks and things. It was for a lot of snow, but it's just a lot of. Because, you just take a variety, I had to take a layer off and then another layer, I get it out, but.
Didn't help because I said, I'm gonna suck up that.
That's it, yeah.
I mean, it's not worth it, when I told my daughter I was out shoveling.
There's so much to just
Yeah, kids.
I've had so
I wish I could.
much sickness, other stuff going on in the last month. Worried about. I'm gonna take a picture of you guys. I already told you, so that we know. They harass me, I need to get back.
Well, the drifts were so high, I couldn't go outside and the snow got caught between the screen and the window. So I had to, and the only way you can get them back in is to go outside, and the snow drift is high, I couldn't take it outside. So I pulled them inside, and pulled all the snow inside, had to clean that up. I got the screens and I had to mark them.
Front door. Is it like, see, where the screen is, it built between the door and the door, there's a house there, there's a big, open the door. And then the bathroom, this more, that's on the door. I just had to push it, get it open and slide and so I could squeeze out and then shove it open so we can even get out the door.
Couldn't get through. So I'm going around all the way back and the snow was like here trying to get there. And so finally I scooped him. And that's so I could get the door open. And then I had to scoop out all the snow. Because the screens are thick. Really up and out of this kind of shit.
Yeah, it's blowing.
Oh, it's blowing.
I've done some backyard. We still get stacked. Some of the big piles. But. Because I said, we saw people who don't come in. Nobody knew who it was.
I didn't get that. Nobody could.
Which made it, I put the kids shoving. Somebody else did that.
Well, I finally did. Got the space from the.
They were told not to.
Drive to the shovel. Finally got that done, and then the city came by at night and filled it up with ice. So I really.
Calls from
Because they have.
county. Oh, it's loud as snow after Will at the end of the driveway. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what happens.
well, my street, they could have piled everything up.
And
The
he
end
is.
of the street, because it's a dead
Yeah.
end. Piled it up. No. Might just send you, I can go to the thing.
Okay.
I have part.
Okay.
I guess I'll go to this one. The one on Friday. Or I can-
Right. Yeah. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman McKinley and commissioners. Thanks for having me this morning. A little off of our regular schedule because of last week, but glad we could get this rescheduled. We're doing it for a quick economic development and military relations update. I'm Darren Stone, Director of Economic Development from the Manhattan Area Chamber of Commerce. Provided a handout for you, which is the agenda for next week's Regional Growth Summit. So that is, if you go back a number of years, that was a former regional leaders retreat that was in Kansas City. We've moved that event back here to Manhattan on a regular basis here these last couple of years and taken it down to one day, which really, I think, turned out to be a good thing. Had great attendance last year. We're on good pace this year, so I anticipate at least a couple hundred, likely more folks from across the region joining us on Friday, January 24th. That event has also been rebranded as the Regional Growth Summit. So some of that is just because that's something that, from a regional standpoint, we can all get around the need for economic vitality and growth. And then this year, we're also going to be rolling out our growth plan that the chamber and a number of partners, Commissioner Ford represented the county on some of those committees, but worked on last year to develop. So that's going to get rolled out in the morning. That first chunk of time there with the growth initiative or the growth imperative, how to grow the MHK Metro, and the group discussion is going to be around that growth plan. That'll be the first major chamber board is seen at the board and committee retreat that we held in the fall. Got to look at that, but this will be the first major public rollout of that strategy. Then we'll have community updates. Those have been brought together in the one block this year in the agenda. So we'll hear from folks from across the region, the chambers and economic development organizations and partners across the region. Joshua Jefferson then will join us. He's the Deputy Secretary of Business Development, the Kansas Department of Commerce. So he manages the teams that are both out across the country doing business recruitment work that we partner with closely when it comes to business attraction efforts, and then also manages oversees the team that is in state, their business development team in state. So they're the ones working with companies that are doing business expansion projects. And we've had a number both in Riley and Potawatomi County in the Manhattan region over the last couple of years. We've had a very active business retention expansion program. George Canton, our team, leads that, works closely with Shannon Goodman, the new executive director over in Potawatomi County Economic Development, but they're regularly visiting companies and working to help solve problems. And I had a great meeting yesterday afternoon with a local manufacturing company, working on some expansion plans. So those kinds of meetings, those kinds of efforts are often supported by the state through their in-state team as well. So when we start talking about the state and their business development efforts, not just the nationwide and international recruitment efforts, it's also getting some of their programs, HPIP Peak, their industrial training programs get in front of those local, especially manufacturers, but those local employers and getting them resources to help them grow. So he's going to be talking about some of their current efforts as well as kind of talk a little bit about how they go about identifying leads and projects from a recruitment standpoint. After lunch, jump into several agenda items related to Fort Riley. One talking about some impacts on the local economy. Then we'll get a Fort Riley update from Colonel Lenziato, the garrison commander, who will be presenting on all things Fort Riley. I have a couple notes from Christian here. She's not able to join today related to Fort Riley. I'll just go ahead and cover now since we're talking about that with the Growth Summit. Christian has actually headed up to a meeting with some leadership on post, so she sends her regrets for not being able to join, but did note that Colonel Lenziato, when he is speaking at the Growth Summit next week, will be releasing, as they often do at this event, their annual economic impact update. So that's that book that they provide copies of. It's also available online. That breaks down all of the economic impact of Fort Riley across the region in a number of different formats. So that'll be good to get that as well as hear some additional information from him on current troop movements and as well as General Rome's priorities. So many of you that there's been a lot of community engagement going on from leadership at the 1ID and at Fort Riley here recently. And so we'll be covering some of those priorities as well. Christian also wanted me to note that from a military standpoint, the importance of the just very new news that our new Representative Derek Schmidt has been selected to serve on the Armed Services Committee. So that's something that has been our regional AUSA group. Christian Ford has been involved in that, as well as the folks from Baker Donaldson that represent both us at the regional level and the state from an advocacy standpoint. Have been wanting to have one of the Kansas delegation back onto the Armed Services Committee for a number of years, and there's been some effort put into that. And so that has been come to fruition, and that's a 10+ year effort. At least the awareness around that, and continuing to try to work with someone on the local, or I'm sorry, the state delegation level to be on that committee. So I think that'll be a good thing.
And I might point out too that this district does encompass the western half of Fort Riley.
There are maps someplace that will clarify all of this.
Yeah, from about Custer Hill west is all in his district, the second district, and then everything else is in the first district. Yeah.
It is more complex than it used to be. That's for sure. So, and then the last point on Fort Riley, division headquarters preparing to leave for the National Training Center, and they will be there until the end of February. So that is coming up very quickly in a matter of days for them. So back over to the Growth Summit agenda. There will be, as noted, after some of the discussion on impacts Fort Riley and the regional economy, the update from Garrison Commander Colonel Nunziato. There will be some group discussion and some table talk that are going on around quality of life priorities for Fort Riley soldiers. That's something that the current leadership of Fort Riley has been talking a lot about, and I know they've engaged folks at the local level, elected officials and others around some of those issues. And then finally, the last presentation, we're going to welcome in some of our partners from over in Topeka. They're going to be joining us to talk about a concept that they've been championing a bit, which is could we look at combining several of the metropolitan statistical areas, specifically those that are made up by the metal communities. So there's a coalition that exists already: Manhattan, Emporia, Topeka, Lawrence. That's the METL. Obviously, 3 of those communities, Manhattan, Topeka, and Lawrence, are part of federal government recognized census metropolitan statistical areas. Ours, Manhattan's, is Potawatomi, Riley, Geary County. Topeka's encompasses Shawnee and 4 surrounding counties. Lawrence's is just Douglas County. But then you go down to the south and you have Lyon and Chase County in the micropolitan statistical area. But the thought is, could you take a look at those 4 communities and their associated statistical areas and combine those into one metropolitan statistical area with a population of over $500,000? And could there be, population of over 500,000 people? And could there be some benefits there from an economic development standpoint when it comes to being on the radar for certain projects or things like that? So it's not a conversation we've gotten really deeply into yet, but something that they've begun to champion. So we've asked them to come and present that to leaders from across the region and see if that's something that folks would be interested in pursuing.
And they'll probably explain it at the meeting, but I'll just be preemptive. But one is that for state and federal purposes, and who decides that?
It's a federal decision.
That's what I figured.
Yeah, and there are, and again, I'm not gonna. I think we'll have that presentation from them, and then definitely there'll need to be some ongoing conversation about details, because I know that they've done some initial work on the idea. Okay, what programs could that potentially impact? Funding wise or otherwise, and so there's some look at, is there anything that you disqualify yourself from by going up to a certain level? Most of those things are based on census tract, municipality, county populations. Those MSAs really, as I'm aware of, or they're aware of to this point, we had a call about this yesterday, tend to be a little bit less impactful on some of those programs, but definitely going to deep dive into that to make sure there's no unintended consequences.
3 out of the 4 MPOs in the state. And I guess my last question would be, Lawrence isn't part of the Kansas City Metro already?
They are not. That Kansas City Metro is most definitely a sprawling, it's a massive land area.
Yeah.
And stretches both north of Douglas County, and south of Douglas County. But Douglas County is a separate, MSA right now. So of course that Kansas City MSA stretches well into Missouri. 3-4 counties into Missouri. So, yeah. So anyway, it's a conversation I think that's worth having and looking at again. I wouldn't pretend to say we've done all the diligence on that yet. I've got that all figured out, but I know as especially the folks in Topeka have some interest in advancing that conversation. We want to make sure that everyone hears up to speed and has a chance to hear it from them. Talk about questions, get those out on the table, and then continue to do our homework if that's something that's a good idea to pursue. So, and then we'll do a catch-all at the end of the event. We've got a facilitator that's going to be joining us and to facilitate group conversation based off of the presentations and the conversation that's gone on over the course of the day. And then if there's anything else that people want to elevate in that conversation related to growth and economic development in the region, we'll take those on as well. Okay, so any questions? Yeah, I just know real quick that next month I think we're scheduled to be here on the 13th of February. I have Stephanie Pierce, Executive Director of Innovate 24. We do a lot of work within the entrepreneurial space. We'll be joining to give you a quick little 5-10 minute update on some of the things they're doing, including some of the loan programs. I've referenced those before, some of the loan programs, some of the new entrepreneurial education and other programs they're bringing to the region, as well as some new a space that they're in Aggieville along with the SBDC to kind of create that front door for small businesses in the region. They're looking for technical assistance or looking for access to some of those small business financing programs. Look forward to that. All right, appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Darren. Appreciate it. Have a good weekend.
Stick around for the next conversation.
Okay. Commissioners, earlier during the audit presentation, I acknowledged some people did some work. Elizabeth did a ton of work on that as well, and all of that work flowed down to the 2 Michelles and Ashlyn in our office. So I just acknowledge those that were here, and Jacob and Brittany, but Elizabeth spent a tremendous amount of time as well, and they had to focus on that time. So other things got shifted to other people, and they helped on this project. It was a big lift, and they did it all.
Commissioners, Brittany Phillips, Budget and Finance Officer, here to present RHID policy. So we brought this to you about a month ago. And you had directed us to bring it back and include the housing study as well. So the housing study is in your packet. And it's over 100 pages long. So there were some key items that I just highlighted and to avoid scrolling. I can tell you which page they're on, but I'm going to go over a couple of items. So first they had the Manhattan at a glance. You guys read that. So they have the population, household, median household size, and then also median household income and median home value, which was another question that I believe Commissioner Fogarty you had asked about. And so that is also listed in this study. The next item I wanted to show you is the spectrum of affordability. So on here it has the different levels of income and what is affordable for those individuals in that income level. And so it does vary depending on their income, but the moderate income is anywhere from 55,000 to 82,000. And then the high income is, 82 to 136,000.
Are those the most current statistics? Because those go back to 2019.
Yeah, so this is the housing study that the city did in 2022.
Okay.
So they don't have an updated one out there on their website. And I think Anna emailed, and I can't remember the number you had emailed them, but you had told them the market, like this median sell price of houses.
Every month I update with the median sale price. Yeah. I don't have that information on me right now.
249.
That was in there
250
somewhere.
with an average sale price of 275.
275.
And then this are the average sales prices as well. So this goes, from 2012 to 2021 for existing homes is 165,000 to 192,000. And then new homes are 222,000 to 329,000. One thing I wanted to note, because it does talk about the amount of people that took the survey and how many were Manhattan residents as well. So in this section here, it states there were 1,439 responses in total and 1,132 responses that were from the city of Manhattan. And so that is where this data is driven from. And the median respondent had a household income between 75,000 and 125,000. This means that on average, survey respondents are modestly more, some of this cut off, I'm sorry. They're more than the average Manhattan household income with that median income of $51,000. To avoid scrolling, I'm sorry. Okay, and then on here, there's a comparative analysis of the median home values show that Manhattan's median value, which is 232,000, sits towards the upper end of the spectrum among peers and far surpasses values in neighboring communities. But Manhattan's home values, which also sit slightly above the region's median of 224,000, suggests that Manhattan is indeed a more expensive market than one might expect given its regional and economic context. So these are some of the other cities. This is summer, which cities these were, I'm sorry. Lawrence, Leavenworth, Salina, Topeka, Junction City. So that's what some of these abbreviations are for. So here's Manhattan here. 229. This I'm not gonna go over every detail on this, but this was the community survey results. So I think it's a good, item to really look at when you're trying to figure out, affordability and access issues, location issues, and just the different questions that they had asked on their survey and how those results laid out. On the next page, in this section, it talks about respondents were generally consistent about what price ranges for sale and rental housing is needed in the Manhattan market. More than 55% indicated that for sale homes priced between 120,000 and 180,000 are needed the most. The next largest price ranges are 70,000 to 120,000 and then 180 to 250,000. Less than 10% of respondents indicated a need for sale house pricing priced above 250,000. And then this final page I wanted to show you. This is the 20-year demand summary, and so it has the workforce housing, upper income, high income, and then low income as well. And then that AMI means annual median income. So that is how much, in that household they are making. Do you have any questions on the housing study? And I went through that part really quickly, but just to kind of answer some of those questions.
So we don't have any data on rural communities.
Not that I'm aware of.
This is just the city of Manhattan.
Yeah.
Right?
It is.
Yeah.
Department of Housing and Urban Development, if you go to their website, has some specific rule. It's pretty generic. It's not, sent county by county necessarily, but it does have some information and it's pretty comparable to what's going on here. We're not really any different than same size communities around the country. It is what it is, quite honestly.
Going back up to the RHID, I scrolled too far, I'm sorry, RHID policy. Did you have any further questions on the RHID policy from when we presented it last month? On what that process looks like? The Budget and Planning Committee, I believe we talked about it when we presented last as well, but we really recommend putting a cap on those RHIDs. I mean, state statute allows up to 25 years. But it was our recommendation, honestly, a max of 10 years is what we had discussed.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. A lot better than 25. Still going to make quite an impact.
Commissioners, other than that, the 10-year limitation, as everything we present to the board, if you want to scrap entirely what we have presented to you, tell us we want to scrap it and start over, or modification that you want. That's why we're here, to get direction from you. And it's not necessarily for a final decision today, but if you're ready for a final decision, you also have that.
We're not approving any RHIDs. We're just saying we're just approving, this is going to be our policy.
This is going to be our policy
of how we're going to look at things. Details now, just say one of the things, supporting moderate income somewhere. Now I've read through this thing, but I can't find it.
Can you get that moderate income chart? And
well, not the income, no, but in our policy.
Oh, gotcha, in the policy.
So urban infill over suburban sprawl, support the creation of affordable housing over other type of developments. That's one that us.
How do you define that?
Well, that chart she had shows.
Fisher, what page was that on that you were reading that from?
At the bottom of page 1.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, that right there.
And commissioners, you know, we could even, if the commission wanted, put in there those dollar figures that's from a study, but it's gonna have to be updated as
But I
well.
don't think we need.
But we'll need to know those
specific
numbers
numbers.
annually
Yeah, we
too.
will, but that's gonna change every time.
Mhm.
Okay, try it,
I think that's an important part of the process.
Well,
So
it
that's what
is.
we're gonna have to do.
but that's something we'll have to look at, but that's not. Like I say, 'cause if we say this is moderate, this next year it's gonna be
Right,
different.
exactly.
Rather than,
Well.
we'll have
okay.
to use it updated data when we
Mhm.
make the evaluations.
We need to be sure and put that in there probably, you know, to be adjusted annually based on this study where it was gotten from.
Well, does that does not take into account interest rates, mortgage interest rates, does it?
Does not.
This is just the basic thing.
Exactly.
And that makes a huge difference in.
Absolutely.
I don't know if there's anything we can put that in there too, that we need to. Be able to analyze that at the time that we're looking at each individual project, if it's really affordable, you know, what is the interest rate, and what's the payment really gonna be?
Well, I think that one chart, didn't it take into, it said income levels for different houses. I assume that was interest rates were included in there, but of course that's a 21 interest, which is not what they are now.
Yeah, much higher now.
Yeah.
Does that include like other things like your insurance, escrow?
Yeah, all those things, special, yeah.
Special.
That's
That
what
would
this
be
is
the
doing, that's what this
special,
is doing, is taking out specials.
But
Yeah, it's like my house I bought 4 years ago. I couldn't afford it today. It's gone up so much, like over 20%. So, and that was started at 220 or something like that in town. That's,
Wait, you said, well, it's been in here, we don't, or I don't see it, it says terminable or inject, although the statutory authorized for 25 years. It should be kept to a minimum, we don't say.
We're asking the board if you would like us
Okay.
to put something in there. We had that
I didn't think it had been. It just
discussion. We
says-
didn't get direction from you to do that. So that's what we're asking if you would like us to. I think we need to put up, still keep in there up to 25 years, but Riley County's only going to consider if the board, whatever
Yeah.
number.
up to 10%, 10 years.
Is that agreed upon with the commissioners?
Yeah.
I want to ask a clarifying question. You want it updated to, also include either, is it median household income or the median home value?
Yes.
Both?
yeah,
Okay, on an annual basis.
correct.
Okay,
This
Uh-oh.
this is just.
Yeah, I'll get it.
This is just.
So, purpose of the policy, we mentioned affordability a few times, but we leave that pretty vague. One thing we want to probably consider is that this is our policy for the entire county, not necessarily just for Manhattan. So if we were going to apply this policy, we would want that flexibility to consider. If we were going to do an RHID in, Leonardville or Riley or wherever. And then the policy really asks for a lot of these metrics. If you look into, minimum data requirements, this is what we want to see. This is what we're telling folks. This is what we want to see when we consider, but the board considers an RHID policy, whether an RHID itself. This is what we want to see. This is what we want to be included. So I don't know, they have existing assessed valuation. There's quite a few data points here. We can make sure that, sale price, or if there's specific points of data that's not included, we can include that in there. Make sure that we get that information when you guys are considering it. But I don't know if maybe putting a value in the policy itself would be necessarily helpful.
I don't think we're talking dollars, so, right? We're just saying we want for us to review that annually, right? As we get them and we have that number when an RHID is applied for, correct? Is that
Right.
what I'm understanding?
Yeah.
So not a dollar amount, but we just have to know
We're just saying
when we
that
get.
those numbers will be considered. We're not gonna put them in here, but they
Yeah.
will be considered up to date, whatever year it is.
Okay, yeah, because that's a part of the housing needs analysis. That's what we have here in these RHIDs that are presented. Is they give us those numbers as a part of that housing needs analysis. Right? Does that make sense? Okay,
So for clarity in that, just so we get it correct in your policy, you want it to be considered up to what's deemed as workforce, those income and house value price, even though we're not gonna put numbers in there, there's always gonna be numbers that fit below and up to there. And so staff's just gonna need direction. We may understand what we're saying now, but in 5 years, is everyone gonna understand what it means? Is my point.
We're looking for workforce housing or affordable housing. It's two different things.
Well,
so
you can ask 10 people those two questions and you can get 10 different answers. Let me talk.
if I may, on affordability, the HUD identifies that, of course, is median 80% of the median income, and then it's 30% of that median income allotted for housing. That's how they determine it. Affordability, at least on a, you know, wide level. But it may be helpful to have that latitude when considering an RHID.
I kind of like that particular number.
Yeah.
Percentage of what you're spending on housing, whether you're renting or whether you're buying at this particular point, because
we could
really kind of set you up from an income perspective on everything else that you do.
One option that we could do, if you guys do like kind of with the federal position on that, is we could just adopt in the policy that affordability is going to mean whatever, you know, federal policy stance dictates. And we could do it that way. That's possible.
Thoughts on that?
I don't know, federal.
Kind of.
I think we need to keep some flexibility there. If we're saying it's only. And we don't have to say it's only according to HUD's form, you know.
Yeah,
But to
we could
use,
do a preference.
you know, we use those, but if.
Yeah.
You know, if we're a little over or a little under,
Mhm.
but I don't want to be limited to exactly these numbers. We're
Yeah.
just saying that's what we're gonna look at.
Yeah.
Or the range we're gonna look at.
Yeah, I can make sure that is reflected.
Well, and it will depend on which area we're looking at and what workforce we're looking at or what. Some areas are really high income and some aren't. Each development's gonna be different.
Yeah.
Great. Perfect. And then, you know, I mean, the purpose of this, of course, is to really help, you know, the folks that are applying for these ARRHIDs to make sure they give the board and everybody consider it all the information that we need. So. So from my understanding, sorry to speak again, my understanding here is that I'm gonna include that we'll tie it to the federal policy, but just as a guiding principle, not necessarily a determining factor. Is that accurate? And tenure cap. Tenure cap?
Any other changes you would like us to
Well,
adjust?
there's a question back on your first presentation, talking about what the city has to do. Where are they in that?
That, I guess I don't really know that answer.
Yeah, I'm.
It has four steps the city has to do before we get it.
I'm pretty certain it's still with the Secretary of Commerce. I don't think they've decided yet. So that's where we're at, or that's where the city's at.
Which is at step 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, they adopted an initial resolution. I think they were very detailed in their approach to it. I don't know if they necessarily had to have a resolution, but they did. So that may be why we're a little confused. But right now, it's just sitting with the Secretary of Commerce. They'll kick it back or approve it.
Because then they have to have 30 days notice and have a public.
Yeah,
hearing
they'll have
and
to
all
set
that
up a
stuff.
public hearing, and then after that, we'll have that 30-day window.
And then they have to-
So we're not
That's
in
for
that.
each applicant, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
each
And
of our
we
HIDs
kind of
district.
loop together.
I think the cities grouped them all together, so I think they'd probably be all considered at the same time. So.
No.
But you have to do them separate. Per
Yeah.
applicant.
the consideration. Honestly, I don't know if you need to,
I would prefer
but
to.
we
Yeah.
can definitely do it.
Yeah,
Because in this case, all three projects aren't built the same. And
Yeah.
we give everybody the opportunity to
Yeah.
interact on their own half and their own merit. So if that's not, then I believe that needs to be in the policy.
Okay,
The board agree with that?
yes.
I will make it up.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioners.
I can run it along, aren't we?
Want more to do today?
No.
Yeah, I got a couple things after this.
That's fine. That's fine. Be a long one.
Okay.
Yep.
Whenever can struggle.
Good morning, Commissioner Richard, Riley County Clerk. So overall, all of this information is a little bit more confusing than just what the main important ask is for is Annalise is leaving in her elections position and we want to replace that. So that's the gist of it. It's currently full-time budgeted, one of the 4 election positions that is leaving. Got a job elsewhere here in town and we want to replace that. I'd say it's a little bit more confusing because we're switching titles, and that's the reason for the 2 yellow sheets. What is currently the election specialist, we want to call the elections coordinator with no increase in pay, no increase in grade, no increase in staff, everything as they currently are. And then move the title of election specialist to the position being vacated by Annalise. And so that's why it's a little bit more confusing than what it really is going on. We're just replacing, just want to fill one position. So that in a nutshell, this position is critical. As you know, we only have 4 full-time in elections. It's a critical position. And would ask the board to allow us to advertise for this position and allow us with the job title changes. And neither job title, neither position is going up in grade or pay.
Well, you jumped in, you had 2 positions in one position. I'm not clear where you're going. Are you setting up another position that's going to be asked for? Is that?
No.
Oh, okay.
We have 4 positions. If you sign all of this, we'll still have 4 positions.
It's
One
just
position
changing
is
the,
just a title change.
yeah, changing the title change on one position.
Mhm. No additional positions that HR can feel free to speak on it. It's just all, like I said, in a nutshell, the most important part of this is we're just asking for permission to advertise to rehire Annalise's position, who will be leaving soon.
But it's just retitling her position.
Yes. Retitling both positions, actually. That's the reason for the second yellow sheet that's on here.
That's retitling 2 positions, which 2? I mean, 2 that are already filled?
Correct.
One that's filled and one that we're requesting to fill.
Oh,
So
so one of them's for someone that's already.
Yes.
That's correct.
And then I can explain the reason. So elections is very different because of the state statute and the mandate
yeah.
and what they call elections workers who are temporary or seasonal workers. And so in the Riley County structure, Annalise's position should be called a clerk. It should be called an elections clerk. However, we call temporary employees and then board members clerks. And then we also call them assistants. So if we call either full-time position an election assistant or an election clerk, it is a duplicate name of what the state calls the temporary election workers. And so she is no longer a licensing, you can see I put on there, it was previously called the county account clerk licensing and elections. We don't do the licensing. She doesn't work she only does elections. And so we wanted to change the name. Unfortunately, we had to have this same problem when we redid all the elections positions last year. And we called Kirsten's position an elections specialist. Truthfully, Kirsten should be a coordinator and Annalise's position should be
Okay, all right.
a specialist. We can't, so we had to shift names in order to make them fit into our hierarchy and our pay grades.
Oh.
Yeah,
And
I'm
to
sorry
eliminate
that's
the
confusing.
confusion of a full-time and a part-time being called clerk, an election clerk.
Well, like I said, that just, I didn't get that you were just.
That's why I said it was confusing.
Yeah.
Existing one, it sounded like you were adding another
No.
position.
No.
I understand now.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sorry about the confusion, but the foresight, we didn't really realize we wouldn't be doing licensing. When everything moved and changed, it just needed to get aligned.
And it had to be done this way at the same time that we could advertise it appropriately.
Right.
So.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, let's see motion. I move to approve the title change for both positions and the requisition to file the election specialist position for recruitment.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the title change for both positions and the request to fill election specialist position for recruitment. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All three sign.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Thanks for reminding me.
I'll get to you too.
Which one?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Any of us.
Everybody just hang loose. Talk to everybody.
You talk about that. Resolution, the Senate resolution. You're talking about Anna. That's what I had it on my list. Should that be in the meeting also?
We had one representative from the
Yeah. You did so the storms.
Yeah.
Also houses are on the third.
It's a sound resolution.
The houses on.
I already know. I've already been contacted by Shawnee County on that.
Well, there's, general discussion. That's a lot.
Welcome to the legislative season.
Could be a doozy.
Yeah,
They're supposed to be out in 90 days.
yeah, right.
How much you want to bet?
I don't.
They can send us in 90 days, but it'll be extended.
Well, we can come
One of
up
the
with some
things-
numbers on what we, like we do with. the
How many days
football.
after?
How many days after?
Fine them, set up a federal contract. You will be good to know that the first bill that was issued in the House is to fully fund the R&R statements through 2029.
Yeah, they said that, they're intending to do that.
That's
We'll get into
HB
the-
2001.
Before we get the state battles, the one, and I'd asked Russell, because we had the lady that was here talking to us the other day and sending us all emails saying, what are you gonna do? I think we need to, rather than individual, I think we need to have a group of what it is we want to do. And I wanted Russell to say, what is the county's, what is our commitments or our designations, what we should be doing?
Board of Commissioners, Russell Sticksy, Crowley County Emergency Management. So what policy the commission had directed me in the past is that, we weren't going to open a warming shelter for the small group of individuals that are like currently being housed by the Center for Community Hope. Last year and recently, just at a meeting yesterday, Lori kind of rechecked with other counties in the state. That is a function that is typically, and obviously there's 105 counties, and so there's potentially 105 ways to do it, but the vast majority, like emergency management county, does not open a warming shelter for that type of situation. It's more of a, this neighborhood or portion of town out of electricity or out. And then we open up, that's when we take our shelter plans in place and open up a shelter, but by and large, the counties don't do the warming shelters. That's for the, like, for example, for the homeless population. And we have Me-Side down the street that is available. Obviously they have rules to follow, and sometimes those rules don't want to be followed. But the typical format is for NGOs, non-governmental organizations, or who typically fills that role in other communities.
And even if we did, it'd be much like Me-Side, they would have to have rules followed all the same there too, so.
Exactly.
Yeah, what if we had a location for that and then the different organizations could send volunteers to monitor what's going on?
I mean, that is an option. You know, I had a brief conversation with a city official yesterday, or the day before. And there's a possibility of a space like that opening up, but there's not been any decision made at the city level on what's gonna happen with a certain space they have that's gonna be coming open. So there is a possibility of that happening on the city side. I don't know that we have any county facilities that would be appropriate for that.
We did open up Hot Shot Ball 4 years ago.
Yeah, and.
Then we have the
well, that
library.
reminds me,
Yeah.
The other thing is traditionally throughout the state and our community follows, when shelters like that are open, rarely do people show up and rarely do they show up in our shelters. They just don't utilize it.
Well, I think this storm was, like a major storm where people couldn't get places and, they had a lot of people, I guess, at the Center of Hope, 18 or,
And
Yeah, what constitutes a lot or not a lot, just out of
Yeah.
curiosity.
I don't have a number.
Okay.
It's just, yeah. You know, when you get farther west, especially on I-70, when I-70 gets shut down, those communities do have plans in place for travelers. Luckily, we're far enough off of I-70, but we don't really give that. The main, and rarely does I-70 actually really get shut down here,
Yeah.
other than in this storm.
Well, there's other underlying circumstances and not just cold either, but
Sure.
we had a major F4 or EF5 tornado come, much like the situation in Westmoreland last spring, or when it gets to be 110 degrees outside for a long time, or a wildfire takes out a large subdivision or something
Right.
like that. Be nice if there was contingencies that were in place where public and private could connect and
So
have something in place, you know what I'm saying?
as far as the heat, the advantage there is during the heat of the day is when everything's open, the
Right.
hall and the library, and there's plenty of places for people to go during hot weather typically, and so that isn't near as much of a problem as, at midnight, when it's
Right.
really cold.
Yeah.
So, if the commission would like us to look at, options to change the policy, we can, but right now, the policy that you directed me in the past.
I
We
maybe
don't-
think
we don't
at least
keep it.
just a community conversation right now to see where everything's at would be
Well, and
appropriate.
that reminds me, here probably 18 months ago, we had a series of meetings with, emergency management, the city, MESI, the NGOs and police department, be able, pretty much all the players were at the table and we talked and that's when we came back to the commission and said, yeah, it's not feasible for us to really open this kind
Yeah,
of shelter.
right.
So those conversations have been had, and if any of those organizations that, think we need to start that conversation again, want to reach out to me and we can have that discussion again, but I don't know that the basic parameters have really changed.
So you're talking about electrical or gas going out. That one storm we had way back when with the ice storm, just about everybody was out. Do we have contingencies for that kind of a disaster?
So that's, where we could open up Hawk Drop Hall. That's why, one reason why we just replaced the really old generator that was out there. It has a generator. Obviously, it can, the whole city of Manhattan or Riley County fit in it? No. But, that's what we would do.
Mhm.
I believe that's what we did then, wasn't it?
Yeah, and we had, out of 70,000 people in the county, we had, I don't remember, 4 or 5, maybe 10 show up at the most.
I've heard about the concept they were doing in California where people were actually opening up their homes or being hosts like on Airbnb and different things like that. And were opening up their homes for people. And that's real.
And I think that's where it
Extreme.
comes back into play for
your non-governmental organizations, your ministerial alliances, your things like that, that's where it's more appropriate for them to manage that. I mean, that would be a little bit of a liability, nice nightmare.
Sure.
We tried to start some program like that. We said, oh yeah, Joe can go to Sally's house or whatever. And
No.
I'll defer to legal on that, but I would probably stay way away from
Well, do we need to get another open? Because I know we all got a message from the pastor at the Congregational Church.
Well, what I've been amazed about there is they've been picking up a lot of donations from people and they've been getting a lot of volunteers to do that. I mean, the longer term, is that the best approach? I don't know. I'm not the expert here, but.
Well, like you said, it has meetings.
Yeah,
all this and stuff.
right. I know.
It's not a county function. Like you'd say, you talk to me like the city has a bill, you know, we don't, except for Potter, we don't have a big building, and that's a big vacant building anywhere.
And we use Potroff Hall for other community
And
things
it's
too. so.
usually busy several nights a week
Right.
already.
And the other thing about this particular storm, a lot, you know, the part of, I think their concern was their volunteers were trudging through the snow. I mean, we'd be doing the same thing, you know.
Yeah.
Half of my staff was blocked into their house. They couldn't have got out if they had to. And, you know, there was a time period there where, I think I mentioned to you the other day, maybe I didn't, but, you know, we had dispatch when the snow plows got pulled because of the zero visibility and you couldn't see where you're going. You know, dispatch was supposed to call us before they toned anybody out. So we could decide if that was a call worth risking our people's safety and anybody else that may be on the road safety to have our big trucks going down the road. We couldn't see what was going on. So there's those instances where people need to plan ahead.
Yeah.
And not wait till the last minute to find shelter.
And I guess the only reason I brought it up is that way at least someone touched base back with the individual that sent us the email, and I would remind them, Commissioners and Russell, we're about to have 2 days of minus 10 or 20 degree weather coming up, and so it may come up again. So at least if
Yeah.
someone reaches out to the individuals, that was the only reason I wanted to bring it up, because I didn't reach back out to the individual.
I reached back out via email, but.
Well, I
probably better to
did.
Hear from staff than me probably.
I haven't scheduled anything. Really been wrong.
Yeah, see, I just thought, oh, the same as you were saying, we needed to have a discussion of review what it is really we're responsible for.
Yeah, legally, I don't think anything.
Right.
Brian?
I would agree.
That there are groups out there that do that. Better.
And like I said before, it's not like 3 counties to our east and 3 to our west are doing something, you know, we're all. It's the norm.
Yeah.
I'm not saying there's any out of the 105 that aren't doing something, but the vast majority are not.
Okay.
Yeah, and when we have a storm warning out like that, you know, it'd be good if people that don't have shelter would have people to get in touch with where they know they're gonna go.
Well, there's some people that don't want shelter.
Yeah, I understand that.
I can't, nobody can solve that particular issue either, so.
Well, and it's hard to get ahead of them because even when a storm starts, we don't know the magnitude of what it's gonna
Right,
get to,
true.
you know, and we don't know until it's over.
100-year.
125 year.
125 year.
Occurrence, you can't plan for that. I mean, you
Don't
need
be here for
it.
the next one.
I think I'm the same thing.
The only thing I would give this, and this is not me in my legal capacity, this is me in my friendly talking with Lori Harrison capacity, right? We do have that list of warming shelters, right? That has already been disseminated. And I'm sure that, you know, there's other coordination that can go on that can be led by we want to be good folks
Sure.
and help communicate, but we're already trying to do a lot.
Yeah.
You know?
And I say that's the thing, you know, we have, by the publicized where
Where it is,
facilities are available.
yeah.
That'd be a
That
good
would be
idea.
good to do that
Especially if you
again.
know weather's coming, if someone could
Yeah.
get that list to the local media to disseminate.
Vivian does regularly before any big storm. She posts does a press release. Vivian stays pretty.
And then I don't know what else we can do.
Yeah.
So is the commission wanting
me to reach back out or you'll reach back out or?
I think it needs to come from one because you get mixed messages.
Oh, yeah,
We can, no. Yeah, I'd say you or Lori.
So I can work with Brian and craft something to.
A response.
A response, okay.
That'd be great.
I'll send her a message and say you'll be getting something from her.
Another quick item to Brian just gave me is if we want to do a disaster declaration for the past, in case there's any FEMA funding that
You
comes
can talk about
forward.
that before.
We do need to make a motion on that.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to, yeah.
I think these are the same thing.
Yeah, they're all the same. They're just one signature.
What is that, Russell?
It's the disaster.
Declaration for a local disaster emergency.
I just produced them in triplicate because we like to sign 3 copies of things.
And that's just if funding becomes available from someone for this.
That way we have that
we've had
paperwork in place.
declaration.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the chair to sign a declaration of local disaster emergency for Riley County, Kansas.
I would second that.
Been moved and seconded to approve signing the declaration of local disaster emergency for Riley County. All in favor?
Aye.
Need 3 signed. Just,
I think.
because one's never good enough.
No.
Do we need 3? We need 3.
We usually do.
Yeah, we usually do. It's fine. Just costs a little more ink and the chairman's some arthritis.
They won't let us stamp those things.
Well, it's not as official.
And then I guess one other thing, one of the commissioners could forward Brian and I that email that we'll need to reply to. That'd be great.
What kind of, let's see.
Thank you.
I'm forwarding the whole thing, responses and everything, but I'll give it to you.
Thanks.
The other thing, John and I both had in mind the Senate resolution about taxing. The hearing was at 9:30 this morning. And KAC took a neutral position on it.
Really?
Yes.
I thought we gave them direction.
No, that's because you have several commissioners from an unnamed county that seem to be for it. And have stirred the pot.
Up in the Northeast.
Yeah, it's a Northeast county. One that you and I are very familiar with.
Yes, that's what I hadn't heard that, but I'm not surprised.
That's
because what it does, it says it limits the increases to 3% per year. Unless a house is sold, and then once it's sold, then it'll jump back up. So houses next to each other, depending on when they were bought or sold, are going to be different.
Weird.
No, it's dangerous.
Well, I know that. but it's a strange resolution.
It has to be because it changes the fact that how things are appraised. It has to go to an election. If it gets approved, it has to be an election, but they already had 18 senators signed on to it. Brad Starnes, who's contacted me about it, and I told him, let me talk to you about it.
I've said the same thing.
And Craig Bowser is on that list too, who you know.
I didn't know there were 18.
Yeah.
Do you have the list of those 18?
Yeah, they're right on. And I tried to find it. I forwarded it to, and I had the wrong one because every time I go in the state, I get the wrong. It's hard to find stuff on there. I said something.
It's not the easiest.
Yeah, thought I was doing current one, then should point out the one I had was from 2011, completely different. Because they keep the same numbers every year, and it just.
That's almost.
So they want to limit property value increase to
Valuation.
3%. That's worse than.
Because they think somehow that's gonna solve the property tax issue at the local level. Which actually, it's gonna make it worse because local jurisdictions still have the power to raise the mill levy even outside of that. So actually what you're doing, if you make a mill levy increase, is actually increasing the property tax even more outside of that value. So you're actually making the issue worse, which I don't understand.
Right, like I say.
And I'm not saying that's the direction the local unit of government should go per se, but I am saying that's what's gonna happen.
And that's what Brad said. Oh, well, it's not gonna change the way you tax things, does it? No, but it's gonna make it unequal. like I say,
Yes.
3 houses in a row, depending on what they've sold, when they sold, can be valued at exact same house, valued differently because of when they were sold. So you're gonna be punished for moving. You're gonna be, the only benefit is find a house and stay there, because if you move, your taxes go up.
The future of my tax bills is looking favorable.
Yeah.
Mine too. But it means, that it means that mill
It just
levy
means
has
at
gotta
some
be
point in time, somebody's gonna
established.
sue based off of that, and we're just gonna go through some other process.
Yep, and reappraisal again and stuff. And I.
Attorney's gotta make a living.
I guess.
Like I say, then it has to go to an election, and what, I can't imagine what the publicity for the election will be.
Oh,
Well, if your legislators don't understand it, how do you think the general public's gonna
Right.
understand it?
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Particularly after the way, you know, things have kind of shot up the last couple.
Well,
of
the
years.
I can
There's a
hear
lot
the
of anger.
commercials.
A lot of anger.
I hear the commercials saying, oh, we're gonna save you taxes by limiting your appraisal. Well, it doesn't have anything to do with taxes.
Doesn't it?
But like I say, when she said KAC was neutral on it,
yeah, well, then we need to
Ooh.
talk to them about.
I would tell you probably 85 to 90% of the discussion was not in favor of it, but it was the one county.
Well, that's not right.
That's
I
my-
don't-
That's ridiculous.
That's my frustration with all the statewide associations, whether
Me
the
too.
overwhelming majority of our individual associations and KAC, no one wants to go against the legislature, so that's why I just don't participate.
Yeah.
If you don't have no support,
I'm that way too, because they just aren't doing what we need them to do. It's just, why are we paying them all this money to represent our interests and then they don't?
but.
well, that's one way to get their
Yeah,
attention,
I'll tell you right now,
Yeah.
not renew your membership with them.
Those are the two
Yep.
pressures.
No. Might not be that.
Well, the reasons
I-
I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't get
Oh,
anything out of it.
oh, yeah. He was at that committee, he's. He's from Wichita.
Yep, that explains it. And damn Wichita names. Okay, well,
Just.
I'm gonna have a separate conversation with Anna here shortly.
Okay, and I just, yeah, wanted to bring that up, that I'm gonna try to talk to Brad, I don't know.
I am
Like I say,
too.
I've known him for years, so I'm hoping
Yeah.
I can have a
When you
conversation.
do, I think it's important, and I'm gonna do the same thing to. You know, he was a local administrator for, 2 school districts for many years, to talk to him in that perspective, so he understands it from that direction, because that's a taxing entity as well.
Well, yeah. That's good. Yeah.
I have one thing, and this will be short. I need to see if we can move February 27th meeting time up to 9:30 instead of 8:30. I already checked with Cindy. They're mostly staff updates on that day. It's a Thursday. I've got
It's next.
Next month.
February
February.
20th.
Yes.
Oh, okay, I say 27th, it's Monday.
yeah, we did.
Next-
She did the
okay.
same thing when I said the 27th, but
That's-
I've got a panel discussion I'm gonna be part of, and it runs from, I think, 8:50 or 8:30 to 9:15. And it's just down the street, so it's just a quick shoot over here, so.
So that would mean everything moves into the afternoon then.
But with that much notice in advance, since the last one,
Yeah.
we can rearrange.
Yeah.
No, you can rearrange anytime you like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it agreed by consensus to move the start of the agenda time on February 27th to 9:30 AM?
Yeah. I don't have-
Appreciate it. And that's all I've got.
That's far enough in advance. We
Yeah.
can-
Yeah, we got a month.
Cindy can rearrange stuff.
She said there
Oh,
was
yeah.
mostly just staff updates on that date, so far, so.
Like I say, the end of the month, it's usually a little.
No, my luck, it'll probably snow 15 inches and everything will get canceled.
Don't say
it.
Well, I don't have anything else.
I don't either.
Okay, I'll go ahead and make a motion then to adjourn the January 16th meeting of the Riley County Commission.
I would second that.
And moved and seconded to adjourn the January 16th meeting of Riley Commissioners. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, one last thing. Go Buckeyes.
Yeah.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. When is that game?
Monday night.
Monday night.
Yeah.
Who did they play, the other team?
Notre
Notre
Dame.
Dame in Atlanta.